All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started with today's November 18th, 2015 formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Councilman Waring, are you on the phone?
I am.
Good to hear your voice. And then I think Councilman Gallego is in the house. So therefore, we do have a quorum. We can begin today's meeting. Our meeting will start out with, as it always does, an invocation. Today's invocation will be given by Pastor Greg Schneeberger from New Valley Church in downtown Phoenix. If you can, please rise.
Let's pray together. We come to invoke here at this time, to give voice, to call upon common ground. There's certainly many differences among us, not only in preference but in creed. And yet we are here, we are gathered for Phoenix, for this city. And so, Lord, I pray now, as we call upon you and upon each other, that we would do what we have been commanded to do, that we would love each other as we love ourselves. I pray for common grace, a great doctrine from within many traditions, that among various disagreements and divergences of opinion, there can be a common and a public space where we can disagree for the better of common unity. Lord, I pray for all of those, despite differences, who are made in your image. And we think, we pause, we give silence to all the events in the world this last week, not just in France, but in Beirut and in Baghdad and in so many other places that didn't make the media. We give pause at the importance of an invocation that calls us to unity, because we know that at times our selfishness, some might call it sin, our love of self can override that call. And so we begin with the need to not only receive, but to give grace, the need to focus on hope, on what is ultimately good and best for our city and for one another. A diverse place, racially, ethnically, socioeconomically. Lord, help us to see one another as brothers and sisters where possible. Help us to listen. We are quick to speak. We are many of opinion behind microphones, emboldened by our own dogmas. We are all believers in something, ultimate standards which guide us. And so help us then in those beliefs and convictions and the freedom of our own conscience to be listeners for the world and for our city. We pray for businesses here to thrive, for people to care for one another, and for the civic decisions made today to bless this city. Lord, I'm reminded of the great example from the Old Testament, this command to leave extra grain on your fields, to leave corners full of extra grain so that those who travel by, sojourners, aliens, strangers, those that we would see and perceive as other than us, might have some to take, even as they are being incentivized to work and to try and to assimilate. There might be extra for them. And so I pray that we would come to our business today, come to this meeting and these minutes and these rules with that in mind. May we seek to love you, be loved by you, and love our neighbor as ourselves. Amen.
They switched the flags on. I was saluting the wrong flag. All right, would the city clerk please call the roll? Councilman DeCiccio. Here. Councilwoman Gallego.
Here.
Councilman Gates. Here. Councilman Nowakowski. Here. Councilwoman Pastor. Here. Councilman Waring.
Here.
Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Valenzuela.
Here.
Mayor Stanton. Here. We are fortunate to have Judy Holm, our interpreter. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, por favor venga conmigo o con el personal de la ciudad. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Under our new rules of our council meetings, the next 15 minutes will be taken up by citizen comments. Each citizen will have up to 3 minutes to make comments. If we're not able to get all the comments in during that period, we will reserve time at the end of the meeting for additional citizen comments. Our first speaker on citizen comment is Mr. Kim Baker. Mr. Baker, you have up to 3 minutes. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Real quick, Mayor, if you don't mind, if you would just oblige me in this, look over your shoulder at the Phoenix behind you, sir, if you don't mind. Thank you. And council members, if you don't mind, if you don't. I was so moved when I thought about previous meetings that I've been to and spoken at. And that Phoenix was drawn to my conscience. Years ago, I used to come to these meetings and that Phoenix was a different color. That Phoenix represents me. It represents what I stand for. And you know why I'm here. It hasn't changed. Today, I bring before you, Mayor and Council. I was at the subcommittee yesterday, but I bring before you a letter authored on October 13th, given to Councilman, and I don't want to butcher his name, District 7. And then he passed it on to Mr. Mahoney. I have not heard, and this was October 14th, I have not heard from either party that was named in that letter that it was addressed to. I have not heard from either party either way. Mr. DeCiccio, I actually offered you an opportunity. I respect you defending the police department, but I think you should balance that out. When a citizen has been transgressed against, you should take that same stance, sir. I still would like to meet with you. As the chairman of the subcommittee, I would like to meet with you, but I can't seem to get anyone to take me up on it. I still want the resignation. Doesn't change. The lies that have been told, it's very unfair. It's unfair to your officers to be placed in a car that he was not in. And if you guys can stomach that, wow. But as for me, I find myself reading in Micah chapter 7 today. And you know what he said? The prophet said, the good man is gone. And I find that to be true today. The good man is gone. But I believe we can find him. We might have to search in our own hearts deeply. But I believe he can be found again. Remember, that Phoenix represents me. I am his voice now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baker. John Rusnick is the next speaker on citizen comment, followed by Diane Barker. Mr. Rusnick, good to see you.
My name is John Rusnick. I wanted to tell all you people that are up here that have been voted in by the people that you should have somebody read my log. Nobody's read my log since the beginning of time, 10 years. Now, I want to tell you that I went to the Para Club on the 6th of November. I went into there was a deal on the county air quality. I went in to stand in to listen to what went on. I was standing back by the food, way in the back, not bothering anybody. What had happened is they came and sent 2 women and a young man, and they threw me out. Why? I don't know. I wasn't bothering anybody. I kept quiet, and they took me out. There was 2 women and a boy took me out, and the woman kept wanting to grab a hold of my arm to take me out, and I told her she's not going to touch me. That was against the law. And what happened after that, I asked her, the man who was in charge of the meeting, for his card. He did not give me his card. So what I'm talking about is what is happening. Now here on well, so, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Resnick. That was at the Para Club, is that right? All right. We should call the City of Tempe and let them know about the incident. Next speaker is Diane Barker, followed by Winston Michael Ray.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton and City Council. Diane Barker, and I'm in District 7, and I'm assisting Mr. Rusnick. Mr. Rusnick has served his country in Korean War, and he's been a resident for over 50 years, taxpayer resident in the city of Phoenix. And we have a letter. There's a very nice lady that's in the Honorable Greg Stanton's office that has been handling this, but we didn't get her answer by the due date, November 13th. And it's on his complaint, and basically, up to date, 13 violations that have been recorded. And we're just questioning why in the world would city management, with the protection of which attorneys do, you can get an attorney to make an opinion, but until like a judge or a higher authority comes down, typically it's when they come to take your money away or put you in jail for not obeying or doing something maybe fraudulent and wasting public money. And where I'm going with this is that the thing is how can you have 13 violations saying that you're doing a good job, you've closed them, but you will continue enforcement? It doesn't work that way. This does not make sense. So we're asking that you look at this in serious eyes, settle it. Consider also, because the auditor said the city doesn't have an ombudsman, and the auditor said an ombudsman resolves problems. Well, maybe the city might consider an ombudsman, somebody that's not on a position where they want to uphold a situation and not resolve it. You can look at the pictures that are current today and seeing that what's happened here, and I went last night late and looked at neighborhood preservation. There's a code there that is explicit for dust proof and what you need to do, and that's his. Then you give it to zoning to cure the problem, and they do streets ordinances, and they give an alternative. Now, I submit to you, Mr. Rusnick is fighting for the neighborhood, keeping it up at good standards. I think most of you want to do that, but he can't give you anything, money, for alternative permits and like this, as the violator. The violator's been coddled. They go out and they'll say, we've got a notice of violation. It's all recorded. And he says, oh, okay, well, guess what? He says, I'm thinking of asking for an alternative. And then the enforcement from the city backs up and says, oh, okay. And then this has gone on for years. We've gone to the Board of Supervisors, written a letter to the authorities for an investigation on this senior man, because that's senior abuse, that he should be treated that way, okay?
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. Mr. Ray? And then Leonard Clark, assuming we have enough time within the first 15 minutes of the meeting. Mr. Ray, good to see you.
Good seeing you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, my obedience to Almighty God, y'all. I guess you're wondering why I'm dressed up like this. I didn't get a chance to talk to you last time, but here I am again for hopefully the last time. Well, it's time. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. I always deviate from my script. In Hebrew, in the Bible, chapter 4, verse 12, it speaks of a two-edged sword. And the two-edged sword I'm speaking of is the undeniable, incontrovertible truth that we're ready to market worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask the mayor before all of you, and I want you to go out throughout the city and let your family, friends, and enemies know what I asked them. Mr. Mayor, you've had enough time since September the 30th, as well as Governor Ducey and others, leadership of this city, to give me your position on as to whether you will publicly stand with the citizens of Phoenix and myself and all those who are in need of a better life to end what I dub revenue segregation and economic Jim Crow. We're talking about a worldwide marketing movement. Everybody knows what marketing movements mean. We're going to end America's civil rights era. CIVIL on November 22nd, and that's distasteful to a lot of people because I know they want it to linger on and on and on, but it's destroying the nation. But now, this is my question to you before my time runs out. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Greg Stanton, Mayor of Phoenix, and his distinguished body, will you stand with the citizens of Phoenix to proclaim that the city of Phoenix is the first city in the nation, might I add the world, to publicly embrace the worldwide SILVER civil rights movement? May I have your answer, sir, and don't wait for the interpreter.
All right, under our state law, under open meeting law, I actually cannot answer that question, but if you'd like to come to my office, we can spend time together and we'll have a good conversation.
Politics again, Mr. Mayor. Let me tell you, this won't go away. Let me say this. We have my birth city of New Orleans on standby to do it, and other cities throughout the country if we don't rise up to the occasion, or can't or will not rise up to the occasion. But now you're telling me crystal clear that you are not willing to support a marketing campaign that will get people off the street with a minimum of, well, a maximum of up to $3,000. Pay their first, last month rent, security. Just get them off the street. We don't want a dime from the government. We're talking about a campaign that will sell $100 worth of undeniable, incontrovertible intelligence information to 1 billion or more people worldwide. You mean to tell me, I need this on record, that you're not for this. You don't want anything to do with this. You don't want to have it said that Phoenix is the first city in the nation to lead the nation further with something better. What is your answer, sir?
Your 3 minutes, we can wait it out, or you want to keep going? It's up to you.
I want to get your answer. Will you stand with us on worldwide TV? Because I know, people that have short memories, they'll remember this at the voting booth. But we need to know that if you're going to support civil rights, and this could be the first city in the nation to do this. And we want to set up the headquarters here as well. We have a lot of goodies for you.
Your 3 minutes is up, and we have another speaker to get to citizen comments. Leonard Clark, you are the next speaker. Mr. Leonard Clark, you are the next speaker. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Hello, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm a resident of Phoenix, and I just had some issues of concern. But first of all, I want to thank all of the veterans out there, because if it wasn't for them who served and are serving, I wouldn't be here speaking right now, because freedom is not free, and I just want to thank them. But I wanted to get on with some suggestions. There was an article in the paper. One of the writers of our light rail is strongly suggesting, and I think making good points, that Phoenix Light Rail have turnstiles. So I was hoping you'd check into that. Also, I'm not sure if this applies to any of our veterans in the city of Phoenix, but there was a gentleman, Emilio Cano, in the Arizona Republic, who cannot even get a passport to Mexico, even though he served our country in Vietnam, in the Navy in Vietnam, put his life on the line, Bronze Star Medal. But the United States federal government is denying him the passport because they say that some of the handwritten letters that were verified by notaries were fraudulent. So I hope that's not happening to any of our veterans here. And even though it might not directly be in your jurisdiction, you could still, as leaders, morally help our veterans on that. And thirdly, I just want to finish with, I am asking you, first of all, to come out and ask Governor Ducey to retract his statement, because you, as leaders of the 6th most populous city in the country, I think understand that we are in a war on terror. I do agree. Vive la France. Even though some of my conservative friends don't like France, I like France. I think they're great. They're doing a good job. But I'm asking you, our governor has said that we should stop all immigrants, not just Syrians, but all immigrants. And I'm just worried that our public officials are using pandering and hate, scare tactics, to get people, to get them more power and more votes. So I'm asking you to please, publicly as our leaders, to come out and say, Governor Ducey, although we understand where you're coming from, to pander to fear and scare tactics in the people right now of Arizona and in the city of Phoenix is wrong. We as the leaders of over millions of people in the city of Phoenix do not think it is right to say all immigrants should be stopped from coming to Arizona and therefore the city of Phoenix. You have power, you have the moral power of the press to see you. They won't listen to me, but they will listen to you. And this is what John F. Kennedy talked about when he talked about profiles in courage. These are those moments when you as political leaders can stand up and do the right thing, like a man named Abraham Lincoln, who stood against the Mexican-American War and who lost his seat in his office in the next election because he was one of the lone people to vote against that war. So I sympathize with our conservative friends. We all want to fight these monsters called ISIS, but we should not turn down the children and the refugees. They cannot help it. We don't want to have a repeat of like what happened when people tried to come over during Nazi Germany and were turned away and were sent back to the death camps. Please, I plead with you on behalf of those immigrants, those children riding in those boats that are drowning, and their families, give them a chance and speak out against this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard Clark. Next item on our agenda is the 24-hour paragraph. Will City Clerk please read the paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6073 through G6085, S42105, S42122 through S42143, and S42145 through S42171, and resolutions number 21366 and 21369 through 21378.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is boards and commissions. Do I have a motion on the mayor's boards and commission nominations as corrected?
Motion to approve mayor's boards and commissions nominations as corrected.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. How about a motion on city council boards and commission recommendations?
Motion to approve city council boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We have many citizen leaders here to be sworn in to serve on important boards and commissions. We'll do that now to my right, their left, and then I'll ask members of those boards and commissions to come behind the dais so that individual members of the council can thank you in advance for your outstanding service to the people of Phoenix. All right, good to see you. All right, how did you raise your right hand and then you got the I and then fill in your name, obviously, and then later on there'll be section. Am I on? There we go. Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations, you're official. Thanks in advance for your service. Good to see you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. All right, thanks everyone again. We are a citizen-based government and your service is very, very important. Next on the agenda are liquor licenses. Do we have an omnibus motion on liquor licenses?
Okay. Motion to approve items 1 through 33, except items 1, 2, and 20. And items 31 and 32 have been requested by the applicants to be continued to December 2nd, 2015, and staff is requesting item 33 to be withdrawn, also holding out for comment items 3, 10, 13, and 18.
Do we have a motion on the liquor licenses? Excuse me, a second? Thank you, we do have a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Next item, Vice Mayor. I see which, we have some for
we do.
recommended for disapproval. Which is
Right.
the first one?
Item 1 has
Okay.
a card.
Okay, so item number 3 is the next liquor license. Do we have a motion on item number 3?
Item 1 and 2 are fine. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you handed, do we have a card number 3, or 1 and 2? Okay.
1 and 2 is,
I'm sorry, okay, yeah, let's do the approval, okay, that's a good point. Okay, so let's do those that our professional staff recommend for approval that happen to have cards first. Do we have a motion on item number 3, which is recommended for approval by our city council staff? Do we have a motion?
I move for number 3, item number 3 for approval.
Second.
We have a motion in favor, we have a second. Mr. Saad App, the motion is in your favor. Do you still want to provide testimony on this item? Mr. Saad,
Straight ahead there, Mayor.
are you okay then? Okay. So a motion in favor of the liquor license. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Congratulations. Next item is item number 10. This is in Councilman Gates' district, Fatso's Pizza. What's your motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, a second. There's no opposition from the Fit Phoenix Committee.
Not at all. We're good.
All right, we do have a card.
As long as there's salad.
Ms. Greta Rogers, you're in favor of the liquor license on number 10 for Fatso's Pizza. Did you wish to provide testimony on that item? Did that get marked incorrectly? I'm telling you, it says 10 on here, but we'll pass that back to Greta and see if she wants to correct the, that probably is a mistake on the number on that. But anyway, so the motion is in favor. A second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Are there any other items for cards in favor? 13 and 18, okay. Do we have a motion on item number 13? That's in Councilwoman Pastor's district, special event for St. Gregory Roman Catholic Parish in Phoenix.
I move in favor of item 13. Second.
We have a second. Ms. Rogers, I see 13 here as well with a question mark. Is that accurate or inaccurate in terms of your desire to speak on this item? All right, we'll clear that up. If she wants to come speak, then we will reconsider that item. We have a motion in favor. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item, Mr. City Clerk. Item number 18 also has a card. It's also from Greta Rogers. I am guessing this is a mistake as well. This is a liquor license for a Quick Trip in District 5. Vice Mayor, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve item
Second.
18.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we'll move on to item number 1. I'm sorry. 20 was pulled as well? For comments, okay. So item number 20 is in District 7. Councilman Nowakowski, what's your pleasure? This is the College Football Championship Foundation special event.
To approve?
To
We have
second.
a motion to approve. Oh, the card is available to speak, and then I see Councilman Gage. You want to make comments on this one? Go.
I
Sorry.
did, yes. Thank you, Mayor. Excited to support this item. This is a special liquor license as part of the College Football National Championship game. For those of you who attended the events during the Super Bowl earlier this year in downtown Phoenix, we're going to be doing a lot of the same, but even more. In fact, it was just announced that there are going to be several free concerts in downtown in connection with that football game, including Walk the Moon, which, you know, there is a huge band right now, and I think one of the mayor's favorites, John Mellencamp. I think he may be, is that accurate, or is that, do I have bad information? I heard you might be helping him with Jack and Diane.
Yeah, the real issue, though, is I know him as John Cougar Mellencamp. I'm old school.
Good point, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Sorry about the confusion, Mayor.
All right, with Councilman Gates' ode to Jack and Diane, do we have a second on that? We do have a second already on the motion, so a motion in favor, a second. Any other comments on musical taste? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, John Mellencamp. All right, next item is, now we're on the ones that are for opposition, or at least recommended for opposition by our professional city staff. The first one is in District 4, Roxy Showgirls. Councilman Pastor, do you want to hear a staff recommendation first? Then we have Eric Brendel from the Police Department, and there are some additional cards as well.
So, yes, I would like to hear a staff recommendation and then from the police officer.
Thank you very much, our professional staff.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Denise Archibald with the City Clerk Department. This request is for an ownership transfer of a license for a topless bar operating as Roxy's Showgirls. This location was previously licensed for liquor sales and is currently operating with an interim permit. Consideration may be given only to the applicant's personal qualifications and not the location. Staff recommends disapproval of this application based on a police department recommendation for disapproval.
Okay, and now I'll ask Detective Eric Brendel from the Phoenix Police Department if you could come forward and give your testimony why Phoenix Police Department is recommending opposition to the license for Roxy Showgirls.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me time to speak on this matter. The Phoenix Police Department recommends disapproval of this application based on hidden ownership concerns, failure to provide full financial disclosure, and the applicant's lack of experience. In the original application, Mr. Navakalan listed himself as 100% owner and sole member of the Roxy 4516 LLC, which owns the Roxy Showgirls. However, according to the Arizona Corporation Commission, Mr. Navakalan was only the statutory agent and not the member of the LLC. The only actual member of the LLC was the applicant's son, Mr. Jose Santos Navacruz, who was not disclosed. In addition to the structural issues, there are also questions as to the validity of the signatures for Mr. Navakalan in the Arizona Corporation Commission paperwork. The signature of Mr. Navakalan does not appear to be the same signature that he affixed in the state liquor application and the City of Phoenix questionnaire. See, unlike these applications, the Arizona Corporation Commission does not require a notary. Therefore, signatures cannot be verified. These inaccuracies in the structure of the LLC suggest a possible hidden ownership. In the City of Phoenix questionnaire, the applicant also lists his two sons, Christian Navacruz and Fernando Navacruz, as owners who share in the profits. The applicant also told investigators during an interview that both his sons will each share a 9% ownership of the business. This contradicts his original 100% ownership he initially presented in the application. Furthermore, neither son was disclosed in the application as either owner or manager or as a member in the LLC. However, both sons will perform managerial duties in the business. According to records from the Department of Liquor, Mr. Christian Navacruz is neither a suitable owner nor a suitable manager. In 2014, establishments under Christian's control were found in violation of liquor laws. In 2015, the Department of Liquor Board denied Mr. Navacruz a bar license for not being truthful in answering questions in application. His application was incomplete and contained inaccuracies. There were amendments on ownership in his application, and he had a history of liquor violations. The applicant also lacks any verified experience in the liquor industry as either an owner, manager, or officer. For the past 5 years, he listed his sole employment as being in the janitorial field. As a result of his inexperience, the applicant will rely on his son, Christian, who was not a suitable manager or owner. The business itself was purchased by the applicant for $214,000 to a finance loan, and according to the applicant, the property will be leased rent-free for 5 years. However, the applicant failed to provide financial documentation to support purchase of the business or a lease agreement for the property. Both the loan for the business and the property is owned by an of this LLC is a convicted sex offender who also owns an equal interest in this liquor license. After the police department's initial recommendation disapproval and it was forwarded to the applicant, he submitted amendments to address these issues on both the application and the Corporation Commission. However, there are still concerns about the validity of the signature for the applicant in the Arizona Corporation Commission. In addition, the applicant has yet to provide full financial documentation or the lease agreement for the business. Furthermore, there are still concerns that the loan used to purchase the business is backed by a convicted sex offender who holds an equal interest in the liquor license. For these reasons, Mr. Navakalan has failed to demonstrate he is reliable, capable, and qualified to responsibly hold a liquor license. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Detective Brendel. I'll now ask to come to the podium to speak David Dow, attorney, I assume representing the applicant.
You're correct, Your Honor.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Your Honor. David Dow, 3104 East Camelback on behalf of the applicant. The only issue here is whether Mr. Jose Collin is capable, qualified, and reliable. It's not an issue about the type of business, the location, or actually having a liquor license there. Jose and his manager have met with the neighborhood, and the neighborhood association and him agreed to certain stipulations. He believes he has the support of the neighborhood association, and they did put those in writing as to what they agreed to. The police report identifies several issues of concern. Essentially, that Santos, one of Jose's sons, is a hidden owner in this. That's an absolute, it is a mistake that was in there. Santos has no criminal record ever. There would be no reason for his hidden ownership, and certainly that would have been identified. What happened is Jose relied and worked with his son to fill out the corporate papers. His son owns a personal computer company and has for over 5 years, and has had absolutely zero criminal violations. It was a mistake on filling out the original corporate papers, which were then corrected. It was not an attempt to hide anything with somebody who has no criminal record ever. The officer was apparently concerned because the son put down he was the organizer. Well, I've been the organizer of maybe 500 businesses. That's typical, as Your Honor, as the mayor will know, that the lawyer is the organizer. It doesn't mean that you own the business. Additionally, he was concerned because 2 of the other sons are not listed on there because they own 9%. And the Corporation Commission requires you to disclose it if it's above 20% that a person owns. Otherwise, you don't put it on. It would have been inappropriate to put them on there as 9% owners. And admittedly, Mr. Jose Collin, his English is not 100%. He did tell the officer, I have liquor experience. I've owned numerous cantinas in Mexico before I became a U.S. citizen. It's not like I'm new to this business. He has no criminal record. He's taken the appropriate liquor courses. We believe that he is capable, qualified, and reliable. The purchase price is $214,000. That's to be paid over a 5-year period. There is no rent due during that 5-year period. It only kicks in after all of that has been paid. That's more than a fair price for it. It's not unusual for financing of that amount to occur by a seller, and we believe that he has made all of his payments timely. There is no issue of any hidden ownership, that the price is excessive. The fact that the prior owner had his problems is not Mr. Cruz's problems, and I think it's inappropriate to drag him into this. He had only met the father of the prior owner at a car wash, and they became friends many years ago. And he said, my son has got problems. He's got to sell this business. Would you be interested? And he said, of course. Yes, I will be. And with that, we'd ask, on the limited basis that you're here to approve or disapprove, or neutral, that you recommend approval, or alternatively, at least have a neutral on this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chow. Next speaker will be in favor of the proposed liquor license, Reverend Jarrett Maupin. Are you here? Good to see you. Up to 2 minutes of testimony.
Mayor and council, I came out of concern about what has been included in the report by the police department. As you know, this business is located not far from Park Lee, part of the city's public housing. We all know about the 19th Avenue corridor. I've done a lot of work in that area to decrease criminal activity, and that took cooperation, it takes cooperation from a lot of the business owners in the area, none of which are opposed to this application. We've heard nothing from the residents in the area because I think they're in favor too. I'm here because I'm concerned with two areas that the officers that were involved highlighted in coming up with this recommendation, the staff recommendation. One, that Mr. Navakalin's grasp of the English language is not as proficient as they would like. Now, I didn't think the city of Phoenix was English only or English first. So I'm really bothered by the fact that they would count that against someone in their application when I know that there are numerous businesses in the city that operate with owners that are proficient only in Spanish language. I do think that should be of concern for you. The second thing that was indicated in the report was the age of the applicant. Now, I don't think age or language is appropriate when you're coming up with a recommendation to approve or deny as an evaluation tool. We can't discriminate based on someone's language proficiency or their age or their race. So you have an applicant who's here in a highly sensitive area, part of the city. We need responsible ownership in the area, and he's been that. He's got the approval of the neighborhood association. He's met with churches in the area. He's met with stakeholders in the area. And if I personally felt that this was a bad idea or this was an irresponsible owner, I would certainly say that. He will do less harm to the neighborhood, I can assure you, than the owners of Eddie's Market on 19th and Camelback, which is like the public trap house. So I strongly encourage you to support or at least vote neutral on this application and give someone a chance, even though they're old and Spanish is their first language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Maupin. Randy Roberts, would you just provide testimony on this item? You do want to provide testimony? Yes. Come on down, up to 2 minutes then.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm Randy Roberts. I'm the president of the Neighborhood Association for Westwood Community, and I live directly behind the Roxy. I have tried and tried and tried in good faith to work with these people since they bought the property. The previous owner for 9 months owned that property. Not one police phone call was made, not one sound was heard from that property. It was a beautiful thing, and he was a great owner. These owners, since their inception, have violated numerous zoning laws repeatedly, and I have asked them repeatedly to come into compliance, which they do, and then 2 days later, they're back out of compliance. Last night at 11:30 at night, I was awoken in my bed by the sound of bass music. My bedroom is on the opposite side of the house from the bar. So I got up, walked through the alley to verify that it was from the bar. Sure enough, it was. So I called Regina Scott, who works for the Roxy. She had him turn it down. This is not the first time I've had noise complaints. I have done everything in good faith. They provided me a list of things they made promises of. They've broken those promises with noise, loitering, and other issues. They do not keep track of their customers in the parking lot, and at this juncture, I do not recommend them as my neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. I have no further cards on testimony on this item. I do have a few cards not wishing to speak. In favor of the proposal, Jose Nava. In favor of the proposal, Fernando Nava Cruz. In favor, Christian Nava Cruz. In favor, Regina Scott. Councilwoman Pastor, this is in your district. How do you wish to proceed? You want to make a motion and then make comments on the motion?
Sure. I make a motion for disapproval.
All right, we have a motion for disapproval. I'm assuming it's for the reasons that the police department recommended. hidden ownership, applicant's failure to provide full financial disclosure, and the applicant's inexperience in operating a liquor-related establishment?
Correct, and this applicant seems to be bouncing from district to district, and every district he hits, there is a denial. And so this area that we are talking about is an area that is what we would consider...
Real quick. Do we have a second on Councilman Pastor's motion?
Second.
We have a second. Go ahead.
What we would consider a hot spots and the type of business establishments we would want in that area are healthy, strong, vibrant businesses. And I happened to drive over there twice around, yesterday I was there at 8:30, driving from a neighborhood meeting, happened to stop there at the Circle K to sit and watch what was happening in the activity outside. And it is correct that the girls are outside smoking. It is correct that the noise level is happening. And that is not what I want to see in a neighborhood of families and children. And so that is why I am disapproving this liquor license.
All right, I appreciate that, Councilman Pastor. Those may be additional reasons why you're opposing it, but I want to make sure it's clear for the record that the primary reason for opposing it is the hidden ownership, applicant's failure to provide full financial disclosure, and the inexperience in operating a liquor license establishment?
Correct.
All right, we have a motion. We second. Any other comments on liquor license number 1, Roxy Showgirls? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion to disapprove passes unanimously before this council. Obviously, the applicant will have an opportunity to make these arguments before a full hearing for the State Liquor Board. Next item is item number 2. Item number 2 is also recommended for disapproval by our professional city staff. This is the GNS Mini Market in Council District 7. Councilman, do you want to get a staff report to start out with?
Yes,
Please.
sir.
Can we get a staff report on item number 2?
Mayor and members of the council, this request is for a new liquor license for a convenience store that does not sell gas, doing business as GNS Mini Market. Consideration may be given to the applicant's personal qualifications and to the location. Staff recommends disapproval of this application based on a police department recommendation for disapproval.
Thank you very much. Police Officer Ballantyne, are you here to provide testimony? Please come forward up to 2, or you go as long as you want, but provide your testimony, and then I'll turn it over to the councilman. Officer Ballantyne, thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm here on behalf of the Phoenix Police Department to recommend disapproval for GNS Mini Market located at 5233 South Central Avenue. It's a Series 10 liquor license application. The reasons for the recommendation of disapproval are as follows. On 10/9/14, a liquor inspection was conducted at GNS Mini Market located at 5217 South Central Avenue. This is also owned by the applicant. During that liquor inspection, unlabeled baggies were located behind the counter. Inside of these baggies, there was a green leafy substance that had the appearance of spice. The on-site manager that was working at the time believed what was inside of these packages to be incense, even though there was a whole display of incense in the customer area of the store. He said that he sold these packages for $10 for the small package and $20 for the larger packages of incense, but had them behind the counter because of previous thefts. When it was expressed to the manager that it believed that the packaging was for spice, it was packaged in a manner that's been seen before and the same type of content, the manager provided the packages to the police department, all the packages he had for testing. 119 packages were provided to the police department at that time and submitted for testing for the contents of the packaging. After lab testing later indicated the presence of dangerous drugs. On 1/15/2015, a fine of $875 was paid to the Department of Liquor for 1 count of no manager's agreement on file and 1 count of selling, offering to sell, use of drugs on the premises. Now, later, when the applicant was spoken to, he said he believed what was in those packages to be to be incense, and that what he was selling was incense, but he had discontinued his sales after finding out what was in them and providing them to the police department. On question 17 of the Arizona State Liquor License application, the question states, have you or any entity which you have held ownership in, been an officer, member, director, or manager, ever had a business, professional, or liquor application or license rejected, denied, revoked, suspended, or fined in this or any other state? The applicant answered no to this question. I had already said before that on 1/15/2015, a fine was paid to the Department of Liquor for the selling of drugs and no manager's agreement on file. For these stated reasons, I believe that the applicant has failed to demonstrate the reliability, capability, qualification required of a liquor licensee in the state of Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Officer Ballantyne. That's the only card I have. Councilman Nowakowski, how do you wish to proceed?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion of disapproval based on the police report that we just heard right now of sales of dangerous drugs and also not keeping up with their liquor license and having the application on file and all the different violations that were just stated right now.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion for disapproval passed unanimously. Again, the applicant will have an opportunity for a full hearing before the State Liquor Board. Next, we're on to ordinances, resolutions, and new business, items 34 through 94. Vice Mayor, do we have an omnibus on those items?
Yep, we do. Motion to approve items 34 through 94, except the following items. 34, 35V, 35AN, 35AU, 35BA, 36, 38, 42, 54, 57, 61, 85, 43, 53. Item 35M has been withdrawn. Item 70 is as corrected and excluding these items for public comment. 38, 42, 54, 61, 70, and 93.
All right, we have a motion on ordinances, resolutions, and new business. We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, next item on the agenda is item number 34. Do we have a motion on 34?
Motion to approve item 34.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments on 34? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
No.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, motion passes on a 7-2 vote. Next item is 35V. It's part of the payment ordinance to the Athletics Investment Group for Oakland A's field maintenance. We have a motion on 35V.
Mayor?
Councilman Gates, please.
Interrupt. I had requested that an item be held out, and it wasn't held out, so...
Which item was that?
This is 35AN.
I think it was. I think we're good.
Yeah, 35 a.m. is held out.
Okay, my mistake.
We're getting
Sorry
there.
about that.
Under our unique lettering system, AN is after V.
Councilman Gates, you got to take that dirty look back. He was looking at me like, why didn't you hold it out? Just joking.
All right, you will, Vice Mayor, a beer later. All right, so 35V, did we get a motion on 35V? Can we get a motion on 35V? We do? Did we get a second? Do we need a second? We have a second on 35V. Are there any cards on 35V? Any members of this council like to make comments on 35V? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-1 vote. Now, the most important item of the day, 35AN. Is there a motion on 35AN?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Gates, you have comments? Or do you just want to vote on that?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Please, yeah, go ahead. You got the floor.
Thank you.
Are you waiting for
Just
something?
you, Karen? Okay.
So it appears.
All right. So 35AN deals with meters, and what's the amount in question here on 35AN?
$3.9 million.
Okay, $3.9 million. And what does that cover?
It is to pay for replacement of water meters throughout the city system.
Okay. And this particular portion, the 3.9 million, this has already been, this is already addressed in our current budget?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So there has been discussion of a water rate increase. This money is, the water rate increase is not going to cover this 3.9 million.
Councilman Gates, this item does not necessitate in and of itself a water rate increase. That's correct.
And in fact, the 3.9 million is being paid for out of current funds, so it's not coming out of future budget.
That is correct.
Okay. And what have we, spent, say, over the last 2 or 3 years per year on replacing water meters?
Hi, Mayor, Councilmember. Sorry, I was downstairs.
Problem.
So approximately this amount, we replace about 10,000 meters a year through just normal wear and tear. Sorry, I just ran up the stairs.
Take your time.
Thank you. So we replaced about 10,000 a year.
You thought it had been pulled too, right?
Yeah.
You thought it hadn't been pulled, yeah.
Fairly.
Okay.
About 10,000 a year, and that's give or take about 1.5 million. And then we are also converting our old meters to automatic read meters, and that's another about 2.5 million a year.
Okay. And so then in the upcoming year, what do you anticipate? Will we continue at the same rate, or are we nearing the completion of replacing these meters?
So, Mayor, Councilmember, actually a little of both. So, in terms of what we replace on an annual basis, just for wear and tear, just old meters that have run their course, we would actually expect that number to start increasing a little bit because those meter stocks are becoming older. But in terms of the AMR conversion, we anticipate that to go down because we're in the final, I believe it's 2 years of our conversion program. So the one number, the 1.5 million, we would expect to go up, and the 2.5 we would expect to go down.
The $2.5 million number go down significantly?
Yes, theoretically to something close to zero, not zero, because we'll still need to replace the equipment and the ERTs and things like that enable the automatic reading, but certainly significantly less.
Great, thanks so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gates. Any additional comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item is 35AU, Skyline Productions for robotic cameras for city council meetings. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on 35AU?
Motion to approve item 35AU.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
35AU.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-1 vote. Next is item 35BA for audio and visual systems for city council meetings. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on 35BA?
Motion to approve item 35BA.
Second.
Motion is second. Any comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the item passes on an 8-1 vote. Next item is 36, which I believe,
Public hearing only.
is it just a public hearing? Okay, so a public hearing on a proposed 11th Avenue and Happy Valley Road annexation. That's in District 1, I believe? Okay, the public hearing is now open. Are there any cards on item 36? Is anyone here from the public to come to provide testimony before this council on the issue of a proposed 11th Avenue and Happy Valley Road annexation? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Next item is item number 38. Okay, so our city clerk needs to read the title. Please do so.
Item 38, ordinance G6073, an ordinance to implement Proposition 104 by amending Phoenix City Code, Chapter 14, Privilege and Excise Taxes, Article 4, Sections 14-410A, 14-415A, 14-416A, 14-417A, 14-425A, 14-427A, 14-430A, 14-435A, 14-440B, 14-444, 14-445A, 14-450A, 14-455A, 14-460A, 14-475, and 14-610B by changing the effective rate of tax imposed thereunder, and by adding new sections 14-460D and 14-610E, and providing for a biennial adjustment.
All right, so do we have then a motion on item 38?
Motion to approve item 38.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any cards on that item? Diane Barker, did you provide testimony on this item? Up to 2 minutes.
Okay, I got taller. This is on the transportation proposition 104, and point 7 is going into transportation. We have exempted $110,000. Typically, this was a bargain with the car dealers, so they wouldn't be going into a neighboring city and buying. Where I'm going with all of this was brought for Phoenix to make more transportation choices. I go to Maricopa Association Government, and there's this information. In 2004, there was an increase of 4.8% in vehicle miles. This was freeway miles in vehicles. Okay, this is an increase even up over 1.1 in 2013. However, on light rail and buses, there's been a decline. With all of what we're doing, unless there's a commitment to this area, to the choices, and making the best, listening to people that are users, and advertising for more. I know from working in the system, when people are out using transportation, I even have people in cars stopping me because they don't know the direction, but lots of times people don't know the direction, where to stand at bus stops and everything. We need to make transfers more convenient. We need to not put the bus in the second system. It's the most flexible. We have people going to the state and here at the city that are using it. We must not have the idea that if you're poor, you don't have a car, then you have to ride the bus. That's another thing. We don't need policies from government that will give you an inducement if you come by your car, and you don't get the same thing if you choose one of your alternatives for your tax. What I'm asking is for a new light and to really look at helping people get around.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. That's the only card we have on item 38. So we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
No.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 6-3 vote. Item number 42, I believe, is next. We have a motion on item 42.
Motion to approve item 42.
Do you have a second? We have a second. Leonard Clark, did you provide testimony on item 42? This is a proposed amendment to the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association agreement with the city, conditions for employment. Mr. Clark, going once, going twice. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 7-2 vote. Item 43 is next. Do we have a motion on item 43?
Motion to approve item 43.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item 43. Councilman Noakowski, did you just make comments on 43?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be voting no on this item. I've been receiving a couple letters from retirees that are saying that the One Exchange company that we've outsourced is out of state, and that they actually have to call out of state to get information from Utah, Texas, and sometimes they're from 20 minutes to 40 minutes on the phone waiting for a response. That these individuals said that we should come back and have it centralized back in the city of Phoenix, where they can actually talk to an individual here locally and not be ran around by individuals that are out of our state. So I'll be voting no on this item.
Thank you very much, Councilman Noakowski. Are there any other comments by members of this council? Councilwoman Pastor, please.
My question to this is, we have been doing FMLA internal, and I want to understand why we're going out for a contract when we have staff that is trained. My understanding is that they're in different departments, but if we streamline it and put them all in one department and develop a policy or a procedure and process on how to determine FMLA, has that been done?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, currently Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, is administered in a decentralized way in departments. What we've discovered in doing some research is that we need to centralize that in the Human Resources Department so that we have consistent administration across the board. What this item does is this does not contract per se. What it does is that we would issue an RFP, a request for proposals, to see if we could be provided those services more effectively and efficiently by a company that does that as their full business. In the meantime, we will do that centralized in the Human Resources Department, but we want to be able to compare that provision of services by Human Resources with what an outside vendor might be able to offer us. And then we would bring that back through the Finance Efficiency Subcommittee as a comparison before we would make any recommendation to the council.
What would you be comparing?
We would compare the service level and the cost of providing it with Human Resources employees as compared to the service level and cost of providing it by an external company.
Okay.
Mayor, I have another question.
Please, go ahead, Councilman.
What type of savings would the city of Phoenix have by outsourcing this service?
Mayor, Councilman Noakowski, that's a great question, and that's precisely the question we would have answered by the responses to the RFP. We don't know at this point exactly what they would be. We would use it for comparison purposes, and that would be the information we would bring back to the council before recommending anything.
Okay.
Councilwoman?
Why wouldn't we be able to do an RFI versus an RFP? Because we would be able to get that information.
I'll look at our Human Resources Director on, the question is why an RFP as opposed to an RFI?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Pastor. One of the reasons we would do an RFP is so that we could get a complete picture of the services offered, the level of services, a presentation from each vendor, including total cost. We could then investigate those costs to make sure that they would fit the needs of the city of Phoenix. An RFI is just basically a document that we would receive and read. We really want to interview these vendors with a committee made up of employees and 2 representatives from union and association.
So you'd be interviewing the vendors in this RFP?
We'd receive the RFP. The evaluation panel would make its recommendation on how many to interview, and then they would interview for a final recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
No.
Pastor.
No.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Did you vote? Yes or no? Okay, so the vote was 7-2. Next item on the agenda is item number 53. Do we have a motion on 53?
Motion to approve item 53.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 53. Councilman Noakowski, questions on 53 or comments? No comments? Okay. Any other comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, I believe it was an 8-1 vote. Next item on the agenda is item 54. Do we have a motion on 54?
Motion to approve item 54.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a few cards on this item. Greta Rogers, did you provide testimony on item number 54? Followed by Peter Bezanson, Don Budinger, Terry Warren, and then Leonard Clark. Mr. Rogers, good to see you.
Council and mayor and people in attendance, I thoroughly support this proposal. I support anything in this state that will improve the progress of programs, quality, and access to them in this state of education, particularly K-12. Our state has failed miserably in doing this at the state level now for 44 years in my experience. And therefore the state rests at number 48 and 49 out of 50, which is a big flat red F. John Salgado and Lydia have done an amazing job for the city and for the Arizona area in providing funding from IDA, which are federal funds, for progress, improvement, and access to the best quality of education. All 9 of you should say yes. It isn't going to cost you a dime out of your pocket.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. I just have to politely correct you. It's not federal funds, it's private funds that if they get approved by the IDA, I think does buy down some points on a loan, and so it makes it more affordable. Peter Bezanson, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you all as well. And I'm joined here by Don Budinger, our board president. So I will just say a few brief words as a basis parent, and then I'll turn over the balance of my time to Don. So again, I stand in front of you again this year to be Basis would like, and I work for Basis, we'd like to be one small part of the education reform solution. We're proud to be headquartered here in the Phoenix metropolitan area, and proud to stand in front of you seeking help getting financing for multiple new construction projects for Basis Chandler and Basis Scottsdale, some refinances for Oro Valley and our Washington, D.C. campus, as well as renovations for Basis Chandler North Campus, Scottsdale Primary, and Basis Tucson South Campus. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. The Basis Charter Schools is the #1 rated Basis or charter school system in the United States. We have the #1 and the #5 rated high schools in the United States that are part of the Basis educational experience for our kids. What's unique about this is that we do not have access, as traditional public schools do, to the bond market. So this is a loan that is immediately paid back by the investors, and the IDA or the City of Phoenix has no obligation or risk in this matter. So I think it's a great win-win. Thank you.
Thanks both for coming down. Appreciate it very much. Let's see, Terry Warren, did you provide testimony? No, you're good. You're in favor of the item. Leonard Clark? He may have had to leave the meeting. He marked his card as neutral on the item. In favor of the item, not wishing to speak, David Tyler, John Snyder, and Jonathan Gelbart. I'll now turn it to the council. We did have a motion in favor and a second. Councilman Gallego, do you have comments on this item?
I have a question for our professional.
Please.
One of the principles that this city council follows is a belief in local control. And so when we are doing deals in other municipalities, I think it's important that we check with their local elected officials and make sure that this is in line with what they want to see. We've had a lot of concerns about local issues such as traffic safety, where other cities need to be intimately involved. So in the other jurisdictions where they'll be building new schools, are their elected officials looking forward to this partnership?
Mayor, Councilwoman Gallego, I would defer that question to Dr. Bezanson, if I may.
Did you hear the question? It really had to do with
I did.
The local elected officials' support, opposition, or neutrality as it relates to campuses in their jurisdictions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman Gallego. So we've worked closely with the mayor of Scottsdale specifically for our new builds in Scottsdale and Chandler. We've worked closely with the mayor of Scottsdale and with the city of Scottsdale as we go through the process of getting approvals. And we have the mayor of Scottsdale's support. We had the vice mayor of Chandler at our informational meeting where we announced the new campus and have his support as well.
And did you get a chance to talk with the city traffic departments about school safety and safe routes to school?
We will work in the process of our getting our building approvals. We'll work with the city and the departments on creating a traffic study and going with them to create a traffic plan as we do for all of our new builds.
But before you picked the location, traffic and school safety was an important concern?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Councilman DeCiccio, do you have a comment or question, please?
No, thank you, Mayor, and I just want to thank BASIS for all the hard work that they do. One of their schools is in my district, and they just do a fantastic job there. Matter of fact, there's always a line of people that want to get admitted to the school, and be able to go out and tell the world that they are in the top 5 in the country. They've got 2 of the top schools in the country is a strong message that the state can literally go out there and sell to the public, because for so many years we've always been told how hard it is, how difficult it is, and how bad everything is, when in fact it's not. We're doing some really great things in the city. We're doing some really great things in the state of Arizona. And when you look at BASIS, they are a prime example of what is great. They've always done a great job of outreaching. They did that when they were looking at locations in my district. We have other schools, other charters that have always been issues, but BASIS has not had that problem at all. Matter of fact, they've always done a very good job of always working with the elected officials in that area, and they've done their jobs. The message to staff, if I could, you're going to hear more and more of this, whatever the issues are up here. If you could start to do more of an outreach, and this would also be out to BASIS too, if you could start doing more of an outreach to schools in the city of Phoenix and look at doing and becoming a funding mechanism for those city schools, I think we'd be better off long-term too. I mean, I know right now what ends up happening over time, we become just a funding entity. So I think there's going to be more of a guide, and I'm just giving you kind of a heads up. I mean, I like what we do, but it's not going to be like that forever. And so I think that if you were to start looking at working with other organizations to see what we can do to help fund schools primarily in the city of Phoenix, and if you want to put them in my district, let's go do it. I'm good with that. I'm easy when it comes to schools. I wanted to see as many as possible. But so if we could start looking at that kind of emphasis before it starts coming down on you, and you know what I'm talking about, I think you'd be better off to do that. And it'd be a better and stronger message to the city and the council. Thank you, Mayor. But BASIS, you guys are doing fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any other comments by members of this council? Councilwoman Pastor, please.
I have a question. I think BASIS does an excellent job in educating kids and advancing our education world. They name some local cities cities that have IDAs within their cities. So is it possible also to be working with those other local IDAs and looking for funding?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, Usually the decision on who the applicant decides to issue the bonds is left up to, well, in this case, to the school. We have had conversations with issuers about some of the projects that are going in their district, but ultimately the applicant chooses the issuer. But to your point, we will extend communication with the other issuers in the jurisdictions which the projects are being held.
I'm just saying to broaden. I'm looking at it as a bigger, to broaden awards, I guess, or, bigger, we can expand faster.
Understood.
Councilman DeCiccio, do you have additional comment, please?
One just quick comment, if I could, too, or actually one quick question. If you could give us an idea of what's in your pipeline, so at least for my end, I don't get it the week before, I can get maybe a few, and I know sometimes they drop out, but maybe just give us kind of an idea what's coming up. Not today, but, maybe it's in a report or something, so we get an idea what's coming down in the next 6 months or so, or more. My guess is we're going to see more of this as the Fed starts looking to increase their rates. Everybody's going to want to be refinancing right now, and we're going to get probably quite a bit in your pipeline of refinances in particular, especially for these big numbers. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Under the IDA's partnership with the City of Phoenix, they are required to report to this council on a fairly regular basis. So in addition to sort of looking backwards and reporting to the council about what we've invested in, number of jobs created, the other things I think are required in the report at the last meeting, to the extent we legally can, because I know some of it is proprietary early on in the stages of requesting IDA approval. At some point it becomes public, but to the extent we could be forward-looking as well, that would be helpful. All right, any other comments or questions by members of this council on item 54? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes on a 9-0 vote. Next item on the agenda is item 57. Do we have a motion on item 57?
Motion to approve item 57.
We have a motion, we have a second. Councilman Pastor
I would like
has a
to-
potential conflict
Yes, I would like to declare a conflict.
and will not be participating in this vote. Are there any comments on this item? Councilman Gallego.
This is a very exciting partnership, and I'm excited that Gateway Community College, whose home base is in District 8, will be expanding to a downtown makerspace. We're doing so much to increase resources for our entrepreneurial community, and this was a great win for our Community and Economic Development Department, so thank you for partnering with the folks at Gateway to make this happen. Downtown is already happening, and this will take it one step further.
Good stuff. Any other comments? Councilman Nowakowski, do you have a comment?
And basically, we share downtown, so it's in District 7, but from District 8 to District 7, it's the same thing, so thank you.
District lines don't matter in that part of the, all right, that's good. Any other comments by members of the council? Councilman Valenzuela?
I think it is exciting. Congratulations, Councilman Gallego. I know you're a real believer in.
And Nowakowski.
And Nowakowski. I think
Just
everyone
their
here.
home base is in District 8.
Right. I think we all win, frankly. It's in downtown Phoenix, which is important to every district that we have in the city, every constituent we have in the city. I appreciate the collaboration between the Maricopa County Community Colleges and the city of Phoenix and all that is happening. This is a maker space. It's about manufacturing jobs for the 21st century. These are tech jobs. And it's education-based. Obviously, Maricopa County Community Colleges are involved, but there's a K-12 component to this as well. This is about the evolution of the workforce, and it's incredibly exciting to have something like this in our city, and especially in our downtown. I'm absolutely supportive.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Any other additional comments? I would just say to our Economic Development Department, this is an outside-the-box, unique investment that the city's making, and exactly the kind of thing that our Economic Development Department should be doing. We already have a spectacular maker space at the Arizona Science Center. If you haven't had a chance to go there, check it out. It is a great space in the old Phoenix Museum of History has now turned into a makerspace that's open to people of all ages. I know with the Maricopa Community College is involved, this makerspace is going to be spectacular as well, not only available to their students, but the community as a whole. And this is the kind of thing that progressive, forward-thinking cities do, and I couldn't be more excited. I can't wait for the grand opening. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is item number 61. Do we have a motion on the notice of intent to establish the Roosevelt Improvement District? If approved, this would not actually establish the Roosevelt District. It would just begin the process, and the formal creation of the district would be at a vote in December, I believe. So this would begin the public process. It's a legally required step in that process. Do we have a motion on item number 61?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a series of cards here to provide testimony on this item. Let's see, the first card will be Jim McPherson. Up to 2 minutes of testimony. Good to see you.
Mayor and members of council, my name is Jim McPherson. I'm a board member of the Evans Churchill Community Association. Maybe 7 years ago, the Evans Churchill Community Association was just 3 board members. It was a volunteer organization, and over time, it built itself up, and now we're at a point where we have 30, 40 members of the community and board members volunteering their time to put in the work necessary to build the downtown that we're all in favor of and all working towards. And we believe that this Business Improvement District, the continuing discussion and dialogue about it, is the next step in that process to continue the building of our neighborhood. And so we formally support the continuation of this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim, for your leadership on this and so many different issues. Opposed to the item, wishing to speak, Con Engelhorn. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Good to see you. Please come forward.
Mayor Stanton, members of the council, my name's Con Engelhorn. I own 2 lots at 810 North 2nd Street. The business is the Angel's Trumpet Ale House, and we are a small business. We have 100 feet of frontage on 2nd Street. Our real estate taxes are $25,000 a year, and our city sales tax is approximately $50,000 a year. For a small business, that's significant. We are generally happy with the city services in our area, and we are happy with the street improvements that are being made. Our only significant problem is parking, and I'm sure you've heard that before. Affects primarily our help. We employ 41 people. With this small business, our taxes are significant. And given that we are generally happy with the services provided by the City of Phoenix, we do not support this BID and do not see any benefit above and beyond the already good services that we have, especially considering the new taxes that are piling up on small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down and providing that testimony. Let's see. Next to provide testimony is Marcus Dellartino here. Good to see you, and you're opposed to the item. Up to 2 minutes of testimony.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Marcus Dellartino, property owner, 322 West Roosevelt. Thank you very much. I'll make my comments brief. I just recently learned of this issue within the last 24 hours about a permanent property tax, to which the descriptor reads enhanced public services, which I assumed was for more police and fire services down in that specific area, and have been recently informed within the last 15 minutes that that's actually not the case. And so my urge of you, and I know it's important to you, Mayor, and I know it's important to the council, is some transparency in this, that all property owners that are affected by this potential property tax are noticed. I did not receive a notice from the city. In fact, got a sort of a random phone call, if you will, of this potential permanent property tax going into effect. And so I'd only respectfully request that all the property owners are notified. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dellartino. Next, in favor of the proposed item, it says if necessary, so I'll leave it to you if it's necessary. Mr. Chuck Coughlin. Good to see you. Up to 2 minutes.
Mayor, council members, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about our great neighborhood. I'm a business owner. I've lived in, I've had a property at 830 North 4th Avenue since 1998. I've been in the office in the area since 1997. We've seen such a remarkable improvement in the area. I've been honored to be a part of the Roosevelt Row Redevelopment Corporation for longer than I care to remember. We were one of the founding members with Greg and Esther and Cindy. And I cannot tell you the countless hours that volunteer hours and time and money and effort, private money and effort that's gone into partnering with the city and the business owners in the area and residents in the area to create the opportunities that we are experiencing today. I know Mayor and the council members know that the neighborhood was just recognized as a premier location in the country for the neighborhoods. And it's because of the work of the volunteer effort that we've put forth to this date that's happening in partnership with the city. The name of the Roosevelt Row is obviously after Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt had a famous quote. He said, "Do with what you can, do what you can with what you have where you are." We've done that. We've done that to the nth degree, and we're exhausting our resources right now. That's why we began this process, transparent process that we've been engaged in for some time, and we ask you all to support it and to be with the neighborhood and with the community to continue the great success that we've had as a neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coughlin. Opposed to the item is Thaddeus Maston. Mr. Maston, are you here to provide testimony on this item? Come on forward.
Mayor, Council, I'm Thaddeus Maston, the longest continuous resident now of downtown Phoenix, and as far as I know, the first artist that came down here in November of 1967. I and my neighbors are satisfied with the services and provisions provided at this time by the city. This bid is a want and wish list by a small group of artists. I am an artist of restoration. I have never been affiliated with the Roosevelt Row organization. It is an imposition upon us and this wide footprint that they've put across to be imposed upon for this wish and want list of the certain few. And I take umbrage to that. So I just want you to know that we were also left out of the loop. We were not informed as this progressed. I was at the initial meeting, and the woman who is the so-called consultant that either contacted Roosevelt Row or she is somewhat of a carpetbagger, not unlike Richard Florida, whose presentation you may remember that was made at the Orpheum some years ago. And I think that we can get along very well downtown without it. We don't need any help at this time. Things are moving along just fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Also opposed is Eric Baer. Mr. Baer, should you provide testimony on this item? Before we begin, Mr. Baer, your card is marked 61, 62, 63. I don't know if you wanted to provide testimony on all those items, but the bid is the 61.
I said 61, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you for
for listening to me. Usually I don't get listened to. But anyway, first of all, I want to thank the city for the great service that you have done. The people in the trenches do a great job with the city. Our streets, our police, our fire, it's all great. This city is a great city to do business in. The Evans Churchill and the Roosevelt area is successful because of a cooperation between the city and the entrepreneur spirit of business owners, developers. It is a great area. The bid in and of itself, there's a parade going on. The creators of the bid want to get in front of the parade and then take credit for it. There is never a problem with people getting exhausted. I've heard, the volunteers are thousands of hours. We're so exhausted. There's new blood. If you're tired, then somebody else will gladly take your spot. It always happens. I own property in various neighborhoods, and there's always do-gooders, officious intermeddlers. There's always somebody always pipes in with an idea. Okay, so what we're looking at, what is the history? Well, we've heard testimony at the subcommittee meeting. I heard the consultant say, well, if there was any opposition to this, they would be here protesting. Well, the reality is no one knew about it. The only notices of any of this hearing, of the subcommittee hearing, or of the December 16th meeting was by my wife and I, and some other people helped us, and we sent out 609 letters. And we've got probably 50 phone calls. I think we have over 30 people that are opposed to it. And the common thread is this: I didn't know. We didn't know. We were told that we would get a chance to vote on this. And now what we're hearing is that it is a protest vote. Well, actually what it is, technically you are approving this now, and then if anyone wanted to protest, it is really an appeal. The appeal process can be extremely onerous. What I'm asking for is that you delay the entire process, that you go back, you get the property, we have a vote, the property owners vote. Secondly, the way that the tax is apportioned. State law says that it is to be in proportion to the benefit to the property owners. It says this all the way through. I'm going to give you an example. You have two lots, a 6,000 square foot lot that's vacant and a 6,000 square foot lot with a 1,500 square foot structure on it. The structure, the one with the 1,500 square foot property on it is taxed substantially less than the vacant lot. How much less? Well, the vacant lot is paying 2.5 to 3 times that of what the business owner. The whole thing is slided towards the benefit of the Roosevelt Rural people who have done a wonderful job, and if they want to bid, they should pay for it, and it should be voluntary. And we've gotten a lot of people, I'm just an amateur, I'm just a little guy, but we've gotten a lot of calls from big-time developers, from politicians, from all kinds of people that said, we didn't know, we were told this. All right.
We have 2 minutes, and now you went over a little bit. And
all right, thank you.
I wanted to give you that time, and I think your wife is next, so
yes,
she can clean up anything you might have missed. Ms. Bear?
Okay.
You're also opposed to the item?
I'm kidding. I am totally opposed, and I'll try and speak very quickly. I'm Karen Bear. We've been in the Evans Churchill's neighborhood for almost 30 years. And I basically have 4 main points on this. There's no evidence of any law that exempts a redevelopment district from the bid law 48-575. They keep throwing that in our face, and even at the subcommittee meeting, they said, it's different rules. I've asked numerous times. There is no evidence of a law that supports the taxing method where they pick and choose a few property owners. There's no law that they can provide me that they don't have to notify the people. There is no law that says, at first they said we get a vote on it, then they said, oh no, it's an appeal process, a protest type vote, but they cannot tell me what law converts, why there are different rules for us than what is written in the ARS statute 48575. And I, along with many countless people, were told that we get to vote on this. In fact, a quote, and I did bring it to prove to you, from Nancy Horman, "Oh, the city will not want to drag people kicking and screaming into this. We will make sure people are in support long before we go to council. Our goal is 65%, and we need to garner support." Well, that all changed to, oh, only those that protest may be heard. The second item is the lack of proper notification to all property owners. And I say all owners because this is over the whole area. They pick and chose a select few to send postcards out to or something. Because if you change the use of your property, you're subject to it, just like and I don't understand the numbers. She would not share the contact list with me, which I understand why now. So we had to pay $200 to the county assessor office to get contact list of the boundaries, 7th Avenue to 7th Street, et cetera. Are you kicking me off? You're nodding.
Well,
very quickly.
only because everyone has 2 minutes, and I try to be a little bit flexible, so you're beyond your time, so you can just finish up your thought, and then we'll move on to the next speaker.
All right, and the inequitable tax structure and the possible violation of 207. And the main thing I want to say is please don't be afraid. It's the hardest thing in human nature to put aside a decision you guys have already been set and convinced of for a year and a half. Put it aside. The study was not done properly because it never presented the other side. If you had a plumber that we paid for it, us taxpayers, we're the clients. I want to know the other side. So either table it or vote no, but at least table it and make her do her job correctly so we know what's going on. And to notify everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Bramley Paulin, you're also opposed to the item?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I would like to provide some clarification to the issue. I understand that the city provided taxpayer dollars and a consultant was hired for a fee that I have heard ranges from somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 in order to garner support for this resolution. Unfortunately, the cost and the consultant and all of these proceedings are in fact a waste of time. For a mere few $1,000s, the city could have and should have sent a letter out to most of the property owners within the district by certified mail, informing them that they were going to be assessed a tax with no opportunity to vote. Provide the amount of the tax, signed your elected representatives. All of these presenters today are so naively believe that their voice matters. State law creates this resolution. It doesn't matter that the property owners were falsely informed that they would have an opportunity to vote on this issue. The only option is a protest vote, which is not a vote. All of the property owners who have been left out of the process and who have no knowledge of this process, the state law says that only a written protest may be considered, and that failure to protest is deemed to be that property's support for the resolution. ARS 48580 clearly states that a protest must be in writing and signed by a parcel owner. The protest must be accompanied by an affidavit proving that their signature is real. And only after the protests are received, another public hearing must be held. The protesters must attend in person and provide justification for their opposition with evidence. It means that a property owner who lives out of state or out of the country must fly to Phoenix for their opposition to be counted. Any representative must first register their proof of representation with the county recorder, And based upon the statutory timeframe requirements, passing this resolution today requires that the council hold its final approval on December 16, and anyone wishing to protest must take action during the middle of the upcoming holiday season. And after all of that, the council is not obligated to take any protest into consideration. I understand the process, but I am having the most difficulty understanding how is this process different from that of the FAA's flight path changes. Both processes are simply following the law, and nothing else matters. Thank you.
I thank you very much for your testimony. The next speaker will be Cindy Dash in favor of the proposal. Is she here? There you are. Okay.
Thank you for your time. I am Cindy Dash, and I am, I guess, one of those do-gooders that has been downtown volunteering time. This is an area of downtown Phoenix that is remarkable. 20 years ago, it was blighted with many vacant lots, out-of-town landowners that were mostly interested in the future value. A group of people who cared very deeply about where they lived came together, volunteered their time, their efforts, to make a destination, to make a walkable community for a new generation, a place that people wanted to live. And they have done it on all their free time. And there have been a lot of meetings about this because it came from what does our future look like? We have a lot of more out-of-town developers coming in, and we want to be part of our future, and we want our history to be reflected into our future. So there have been numerous community meetings from those that are very active into the downtown and care every day with what's happening. And these discussions have been involved. And for those that haven't been informed correctly, it's not too late. We can catch them up. We can have these conversations. But at this time, we're looking at a future that we want to reflect our history. We want the people that have spent time building this community around arts and walking and community to have a place in the future. And if we don't organize, if we don't have trash cans, if we don't have bike racks, if we don't have really nice walkable frontages on buildings, we're just going to have a downtown that looks like everywhere else, and it won't feel like anything that was developed by the people who created it. And I welcome all those people who want to step up and help. But I know many, many people who work very long hours, working hard to make this a great downtown, and we're concerned that the next generation needs a little bit more structure to get involved. So we are in favor of seeing this get organized so that the downtown community can be part of the future and not let the future happen to it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dash. Submitting cards on the item, not wishing to speak, opposed to the item are Carla Liu, Roger Johnson, Lori and Randy Vogel, Karen Vanderlip, James Ellis, Tammy Galloway. Not wishing to speak in favor of the item, Nicole Underwood, Kevin Riley, Greg Esser, Celine and Otis Riley, Kate Kreider, and Katrina Kaler. That's all the cards I have on this item. I did, before we moved to the council, did want to have an opportunity for both our professional staff to speak and Mr. Dave Kreider, who is the head of the Downtown Phoenix, Inc., who's provided a lot of the, because of experience in economic development, a lot of the support on this process, to talk about the process and how we got there. Obviously, we heard a lot of people who were concerned about whether or not the appropriate process was followed to get to this point. Mr. Blue.
Mayor, members of the council, the city, with your consent, contracted with Downtown Phoenix, Inc. To pursue evaluation of community interest and the technical details of forming a business improvement district broadly surrounding Roosevelt. And so I'm going to turn over to Dave to talk about what the organization did in collaboration with city staff to communicate with our neighborhoods and the individual property owners and across many numbers of months. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Blue. Mayor Stanton, members of the City Council. The process, as identified in the state statute, is relatively simple. We could have, developed a plan in secret. We could have sent out one notification and had the council approve that and have the Enhanced Municipal Services District created. Instead, at our urging and suggestion, the council adopted a community process that lasted for 18 months, that included 25 focus meetings, community workshops, and Merchants Association meetings. There were 7 direct mail pieces that were sent out during various stages of the planning process. So as the plan was developed, to give people an opportunity to have input on the plan. The county assessor's mailing list was used for all of those mailings. Based on that, the plan was developed, had tremendous community input. The plan changed many times. The amount of the assessment that was originally proposed was decreased. And so now we're in the process of doing what the statute requires, which is the minimal notification, but we're doing that on top of this extensive 18-month community interactive process. And I think this is actually, good for the council, because it's going to give an opportunity for those that are opposed to formally protest the creation of the bid, and then the council will have an opportunity in December to evaluate whether or not they feel this is a good opportunity for that community and for the city of Phoenix.
And I don't want to touch on that last part again. So if this were to be voted in the affirmative today, what would be the impact of that, and what would be the next steps?
Mayor Stanton, the next step would be that even though the statute requires that there be a first-class mailing to all the property owners, we will do the 8th mailing to all of the property owners. We're going to do it registered mail. We're going to put instructions in the mailing on how to do the protest vote, so people will know how to do that if they're opposed. And then the council will have a kind of a reading on where the community is on this, what the percentage of folks are opposed. Then the plan will come back to the council, and the council will actually have an opportunity to either create the bid or not create the bid.
So even if on the electoral side the votes came in more than 50%, 60, 70%, the council would still have a decision whether or not we wanted to move forward with it at a later meeting.
Yeah, I would defer to the lawyers, Mayor, but I believe if it's over 50%, then the council could not create the bid. If it's less than that, then the council will need to make a decision whether or not there's enough.
More than 50% protest vote is
Yes.
what you're saying. I'm sorry, I was asking in the opposite way.
Correct. If you get a petition, Mayor and Council, if you get a petition of over 50%, then that does stop the process.
Some of the folks that testified brought up some, they thought, legal impediments to moving forward. Without giving us legal advice, I assume we've had a chance to look at those legal issues, and you feel comfortable we're okay from a legal perspective moving forward here today if this council were to choose to move forward here today.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we are in compliance with the statutes. Essentially, this is the first step going forward. What has been done before this has been above and beyond the statutory requirements.
Okay, so I think we did have a motion a second earlier, if I remember correctly, Ms. City Clerk. Now I'll turn over to members of the council. Any comments or questions from members of the council? Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, about 2 years ago, we met with some of the stakeholders in that area, and it was over the meters because they weren't informed about the change of the meters and all that. As we met with each group, we had 3 different meetings of stakeholders, and each of those groups were saying, we need to create an association of businesses. They started talking about what they had in common. They started talking about the issues of parking. They started talking about why can't we be more like the downtown, or what they would say south of Van Buren. And we need that ambassadors. We need to bring people. We need to let people know about the great restaurants and the great things that are happening down Roosevelt Row. And it was that excitement just went on, and we talked to David in the downtown Phoenix Inc. and saying, can you help out? And that's where they came in, and we came up with this idea. And I think it's an idea that's going to let us grow, and it's going to let us grow the way that the stakeholders want it to grow. It's a plan that the individuals that own the property, that own the businesses there, are going to allow us to grow the way that they want to grow. And I think that's what's so unique about Roosevelt Row. It's so unique about this whole downtown area is that it's an organic movement that we have here. I mean, we have containers down Grand Avenue. I mean, where do you see people living in containers in a downtown? You know, so it's just incredible when you have bright minds come together, individuals that really care and volunteer. And having this whole process for the last 18 months, I mean, we learned from the parking meters to really go out there and reach out. And that was one of the things that I made it very clear with our staff is that we want to make sure that all the stakeholders were contacted with over 25 meetings and 7 mail pieces. And now that we're going to register or we're going to notify by certified mail all those different stakeholders, I think that they've gone beyond their duty and beyond what we're supposed to be doing. So I just want to thank you all, thank our staff for all their hard work and going beyond that extra mile, and really the stakeholders of that area in District 7 and District 8, both of our areas. I mean, it's just incredible to see downtown. I'm a product of downtown. St. Mary's, I graduated back in 1982, where the Arizona Center is now. And let me tell you, it doesn't look like the downtown that I grew up in. So I want to thank you all for investing in downtown, and I think this is a great idea, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Other members of the council? Councilwoman Gallego. Now, do you share this area as well with Councilman Nowakowski? This is a joint effort. All right, Councilwoman Gallego.
Thank you. So Councilman Nowakowski serves on the parent organization of downtown, but one of the children is the Enhanced Municipal Services District Downtown Phoenix Partnership, and I serve on the board of that organization under the parent. And I've had the chance, as we've gone forward with the assessments for those businesses and property owners in the current bid, to talk to them about the assessment and how they feel it's benefited them. And in speaking with the largest taxpayers in that area, they've said it's been a great investment, that it's helped facilitate collaboration and bring great events from the best known, the Super Bowl, but I actually heard strong applause for Zombie Walk from the business community, which if you'd asked me years ago, would Zombie Walk bring people to downtown, I might not have had the foresight to see it. But the nice thing about these organizations is they bring together a diverse group of individuals to talk about what we need to invest in the community. So I think this is a great process. We clearly aren't there yet. We have some more work to do, and by having an open conversation, we will make a bid organization, I suspect, that really meets the needs of the group. So it sounds like we have a little bit more outreach to do. I've certainly seen a lot of the outreach happening as I've gone to many meetings in my district, but we've heard that there are many property owners who don't live in the district and who aren't sometimes aware of every meeting that's going on, and do we have a lot of meetings in downtown? But if you're not in our downtown, if you're a property owner out of state, you aren't involved in that day to day. And so this process and the registered letters will give us a good opportunity to have a dialogue, and we may need to make some changes to make sure this serves the needs of the people who are there. But having seen what it can do, I am looking forward to the opportunities before us.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilman Gates?
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank everyone who's been involved in this process up to this point. I know a lot of work has been put into this. So there were discussions about the mailing that had been sent out. Were those sent to all property owners within the area, or just those that would have the tax imposed upon their property?
Councilman Gates, all the mailings per the statute were sent first class. They were sent based on the property records and the county assessor's records. The initial mailings were sent to all of the property owners because we were trying to get really broad community input. I think, as you know, the residential properties are exempt. So as the plan was formulated and the assessments for each individual properties began to emerge, then the focus was sending to the people that were going to pay. And so the subsequent mailings didn't include the folks that were not going to pay.
Okay. And there's been discussion, and it's included in our materials as well, that you're going to do a subsequent certified mailing?
Absolutely, Councilman.
Okay,
Gates.
and is that to all the properties within the area, including those that would not have this property tax imposed upon them, at least as they are currently residential property?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, I'll defer to the law department, but I believe the statute provides for those who are going to be subject to the payment are who we mail to get their feedback and advice. But Julie, I'll defer to you if there is something different.
Yeah, and maybe I wasn't clear. I understand what the statute provides, but what I'm asking is what you all intend to do. The certified mailing is not required in the statute, but it sounds like that's the direction that you would like to go, and I think that's a good idea.
That our intent was to send to those who are going to pay.
Okay, so it would not, so again, we would have some property owners within the area that would not be receiving, within the geographic boundaries, that would not be receiving the certified mail.
That's correct, Councilman, but they would be property owners that are exempt. So the statute actually says that residential property, single-family homes or apartment facilities less than 4 units are exempt, so there's no question.
But if those properties in the future were changed to a commercial use, then they would be subject to the property tax?
That's correct.
Okay. I think maybe there's a little bit of confusion on what the council is being asked to vote on today. So if the council were to vote in favor of this item, and then the certified mail is sent out to the property owners, and they, let's say, first of all, that less than 50% of them object to this being created, what is the ability of the council to sort of stop the district from being created?
Mayor and council, by statute, once the notifications, if the notice of intent is approved today, that starts the process to count down for the protest period. And then council, it will come back to council for a public hearing and another vote to approve.
Mayor, Councilman Gates, the council, in the event of less than 50% objection, the council is in the position to either authorize the formation of the bid or to reject the formation of the bid. In the event of more than a 50% of the affected property owners are in opposition, then the statute provides that there is no action going forward. The formation of the bid has failed.
And can you just clarify for everyone just give us examples of what these enhanced services are that would be provided to the area?
The services, Mayor, Councilman Gates, would provide some professional staffing so that the payers in the bid, the property owners, would have an advocate that would work on issues for them. It has significant clean and safe elements that provide services that would assist the community with transient issues, just like we do in the downtown core, would clean the area. It's got a beautification element, but it's really focused more on the arts portion of the community and their interest in the arts. It's got elements that would help market and promote the area, and it also has elements that would allow the community to focus on one of their most important needs, which is parking, and how the bid could help deal with some of the district parking issues that have occurred in the area.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. If successful, my understanding, Mr. Kreider, is that you plan to act as somewhat of a mentor for whoever would be selected for this position?
Mayor Stanton, I'm not sure if I would use the term mentor, but we certainly DPI could really use a strong partner. We're working with many dedicated volunteers up there, and so having DPI have a partner up there that's focused on the issues every day would be really important, and we would work closely with them.
Councilman Gates, were you requesting that maybe that they, even if it's not a certified letter in a ballot form, that they might for the property owners, but at least send some additional notification to the residential property owners in the area, just so that we can maximize notice of what might be happening in the area? Seems like that's a very fair request, even if not legally required, at least to make sure everybody's aware of what's happening once again.
No, that's right. It seems that's inefficient. Even though the statute may not require it, it seems like the right thing to do would be to provide certified mail return receipt requested to all the property owners, which has not happened up to this point.
Mayor, Councilman Gates, we will be pleased to send it to everybody. Although I do want to reiterate at the outset, while we did not do return receipt requested and certified mail, we have in the original handful of the original mailings did indeed send to all property owners that were in a actually larger boundary than the one we're talking about now. But staff is prepared and is quite willing to go do that.
Other questions,
in this
comments?
mailing.
I'm sorry. Mr. Holm?
Mayor, just to clarify, even though it's sent, the notice is sent to everyone under this proposal, only those who will be assessed vote on it, and
Correct.
that's for purposes of determining the 50 plus 1.
I'm assuming that the certified letter to non-voters would be of a different nature than the one to voters, but just to kind of explain what's happening so they're well informed, know about the hearing, know how to provide input, even though they might not be on a property that would be assessed under the proposal.
Mayor and council, that's correct.
Councilman Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Just so I understand, you're talking about mailing out and then they can vote? Because I kept hearing they weren't allowed to vote, and then I kept hearing they weren't allowed to put in protests. So do they have to either vote or put in a written protest? Please go through that little part again for me.
Mayor, members of the council, I think I'll ask the law department to specifically describe the requirements of the statute.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, the statute requires that the owners of a majority of the frontage of the property can then make a written protest. And if the majority does file, then within the time frame, then the city, that will bar any further proceedings.
So 50+% of written protests can stop this.
Kills it.
Yeah, it kills it. And Councilman Williams, I would add that it may come back at 30%, and the council may decide that's too much and doesn't want to establish the bid. So it's going to be the council's call.
So is that protest letter then considered a vote?
I guess, Mayor, Councilwoman, in a notional sense, yes, someone voting no, but it is technically considered a protest and is evaluated as such. And if the protests are greater than 50% of the property owners who pay, then the process is stopped.
Okay. Thank you.
And I assume we would know if the protest is less than 50%, you would be able to tell us how many of those were affirmative letters received versus non-responses, so we have all of that information that we would have in front of us when we make this final decision.
Mayor, yes.
Okay, other comments by members of this council? Okay, so we have a motion in favor of moving forward with the notice of intent to establish the Roosevelt Improvement District. We have a second. Roll call. Oh. Okay, I think the question is, the comments made by Councilman Gates to make sure that all property owners be at least notified. There was a assertion by our professional staff and David Cryer that would happen. Who was the maker of the motion? I guess it would be a friendly amendment that all property owners would be included with notice, not the ability to protest if they're not going to be assessed, but at least notice by certified mail. Would that be considered a friendly amendment to the motion?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable.
Okay. And the seconder is okay with that?
Yes, we want this to be a win for the
Okay,
community.
thank you for, that's a good point. Okay. Councilman Gates, please.
And Mayor, may I add, based upon that, I will be supporting the motion, but I want to be very clear when I do that the statement is, this is merely an intent to move forward with this. We have certified mail going out, and I obviously reserve the right to vote against this item when we're actually deciding whether or not to support it based upon the feedback that we received from the community, since we had people here today that just learned about this yesterday. So despite the good efforts, I don't question, that have been made to notify people about this, people who are do a good job of staying attuned to issues in the community were not aware of it until just yesterday. So,
okay. That's a good comment. I appreciate it. Any other final comments by members of the council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. No. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 7-2 vote. Let the electioneering begin. Next item is item number 70, I believe, and that's just a motion in, do we have a motion on 70? It's as corrected.
Yeah, motion to approve item 70.
We have a motion, we have a second? Leonard Clark? I think he's not here, he had to leave. All in favor, roll call.
DeCiccio.
This item 70.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item 85.
Motion to approve item 85.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Gates, you had short comments on the in agreement for magnetic fair media for bus and light rail passes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This item is a several $million item to pay for basically bus cards, transit cards. And again, I would look to staff, and I know they've heard this before from me, to look at the opportunities to use other things, specifically our smartphones moving forward, for those people who do have smartphones, to utilize that for transit cards. Again, I think there are great opportunities for efficiency and savings moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item number 93.
Motion to approve item 93.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a second. Mr. Leonard Clark, did he come back? Or he was not able to speak? He's in favor of the item. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. We are done with our regular agenda. Now we'll move on to planning and zoning matters, items 95 to 124. Do we want to move any of these items out of order?
If we could take 96 and maybe 113, Mayor. Those are maybe on consent.
To add them onto consent?
Yeah, I don't believe, unless there are any cards there, I don't believe that there are.
Moment.
Which one? 96.
There's not a card on 96, 40th Street in Hazelwood. Is that appropriate to move that onto consent then under those circumstances? Do we do that? Put it in the omnibus? Okay. And then what was the other one, Councilman DeCiccio?
I think it's 113, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's do an omnibus first on planning and zoning matters. Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve items 95 through 124, except items 95, 97, 104, 122, 123, and 124, noting items 116 and 117 are being continued to December 16th, 2015, and items 97 and 104 are as corrected.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Okay. Two of the items in the omnibus are continuances, items 116 and 117. I do have a couple of individuals who wanted to speak on those items. The only testimony I'll take at this time is whether or not to support or oppose a continuance. We won't take testimony at this time on the underlying issue of the zoning matter. Brian Martin, did you wish to provide testimony on the continuance only? Are you here? Brian Martin? Okay, please come forward. How about Jennifer Corey from Zoning Strategies? You're okay with the continuance, I'm assuming? Okay. Patrick Deruta, also continuance, okay. How about Gigi George? Did you provide testimony on the continuance, or are you okay with the continuance? Thank you very much. Good to see you as always. Brian Martin, are you okay with the continuance? You should provide testimony on that. It means that the item will be heard, if the continuance is successful, the item will be heard on a different day. You're okay? Okay, thanks so much. So we have a motion, we have an omnibus motion which includes the continuances for 116 and 117. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, Vice Mayor, and I'm looking, should we take any items out of order at this point, or should we continue? We're okay now? Okay. Vice Mayor. I think we're on, is it 95 at this point? 95. 95 is 103rd and Campbell Avenue. Do you want to get a staff report first and then get hold of public hearing?
I do.
Okay, can we get a staff report on the proposed rezoning at 103rd and Campbell Avenue? Do we have cards on that item? We have a few cards on that item. Mr. Alan Stevenson, our planning director.
Mayor, members of council, this request is not a rezoning application. It is a request to modify stipulations for a parcel that is already zoned R16 for single-family residential. It is at the northwest corner of Campbell Avenue and 103rd Avenue. The applicant is proposing to construct 12 single-family homes. It is part of a larger Via de Paz planned unit development that was developed in the Maricopa County in 1973 and then later annexed into the city. This particular case you see on this aerial here, here's the site. That particular plan of development from the county called out this parcel to be a recreational use. The applicant is proposing to modify that stipulation to allow for the proposed subdivision of the 12 single-family lots. This is it in the larger Via de Paz neighborhood context here in the middle. Here's the proposed site plan that shows the 12 lots, and they also have some proposed elevations with that. The Maryvale Village Planning Committee voted to approve the request back in June of 2014 by a 4-3 to 2 vote. The planning hearing officer recommended approval of the request also. The Planning Commission did recommend denial by a vote of 4-3. Since that time, it has been continued a number of times. Vice Mayor has had a number of neighborhood meetings between the applicant and even went so far as having some mediation done to try and resolve some of the issues. However, they have not been able to be resolved. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for our planning director on item 95? Obviously, we can do that at a later time as well. So with that staff presentation, I'm now going to open up the public hearing and take any public comment on this item. The public hearing is now open. I have a series of cards, but we have an ambitious citizen who jumped right up. But please go first, introduce yourself for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes.
For the record, my name is David Hall. I'm the applicant in this proposal. Mayor Stanton, members of the City Council. In my capacity as a civil consultant, I was first approached on this property, believe it or not, in 2010. And the question posed by my client was, we found this piece of land in Via de Paz that is currently being used as a recreational area. Would you think, as your professional opinion, that maybe it could be subdivided as an infill because of the condition it's in? My conclusion was that development was certainly possible. I didn't hear again, well, we're all aware of the housing industry and what happened to that during this time period. So I didn't hear from them again until 2013 when I was asked to make a request to modify a stipulation in order to get approval to build the subdivision. I'll give you some history. In 1971, Via de Paz was originated, and that's over 44 years ago. And the improvements that are currently on this parcel, which, as you can see from the drawing, is a pool and some tennis courts, those improvements were constructed as part of the golf course amenities in 1971. When Via de Paz Unit 3 was subdivided in 1972, there were even along the south property, the south street of Campbell Avenue, there were water and sewer services put in by the developer before they did Unit 3. Obviously, in his mind, he was giving some consideration to developing the property rather than adding it to Unit 4 as a tract. In Unit 4, which was done in 1973, the tract was obviously included as part of the subdivision. And the dedication states a number of things. One, that the tract A was reserved for recreational use. The dedication also established a homeowners association to be formed to maintain the tract, which was typical nomenclature that was put on subdivisions that had common area. They wanted to create a responsible party to maintain the common area in perpetuity. Problem that occurred in Unit 4, for whatever reason, and I can't answer that, the individual deeds to the lots in Unit 4 did not have any set of adjoining covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So there was no entity put in place to maintain this tract within the subdivision. That's where the problem started. I also noted when we filed our application that there had just been an application to develop the Villa de Paz Golf Course. And a group called Villa de Paz United was instrumental in the failure of the golf course proposal, and maybe we should contact them to discuss our project merits.
Charles, do you have any final thoughts? I let you go a little bit longer than your time allotted as the applicant, but I've got other cards here to speak on this item. Any final thoughts?
I only get 2 minutes, really?
2 minutes.
Oh. Okay, you're aware of the timeline. We got approved by the local Maryville Planning Committee. We got approved by the Planning Hearing Officer. Staff report recommends approval. The only place that we seem to have hiccup was in Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
We're here now to appeal to you to approve this project
Thank you so
because
much.
it has merit. And I'll leave that with you.
Thank you so much. Should we have many other people that want to provide testimony on this item? Jeff O'Toole, you're opposed to the item. Just to provide testimony, followed by Jim Fortune.
Mayor and Council, my name is Jeff O'Toole. I live in Villa de Paz in the neighborhood. In your packet, you should have received a 10-page document from Wendy Sorensen. I sincerely hope each of you have read that document. We've been fighting this issue for about 1.5 years. It's very complex. There's a lot of legal issues around it, but that document really clearly outlines both sides. One of the things you'll notice in that document is that this property was given to this neighborhood as recreational area by the developer. They had a specific requirement as a part of that process that that land cannot be transferred or sold. If you look at Wendy Sorensen's thoughts on this issue, she specifically says the transfer of this title to the HOA that is now trying to sell this for development is illegal. That is a person that was brought into this process by Vice Mayor Valenzuela as a third party. I recognize that the council is only voting on the stipulation removal. Read that packet. If you allow this to happen, you are helping perpetuate the fraud of this land from our neighborhood. Again, the current title owner, that title was transferred illegally per somebody who's really looked at both sides of this issue. I encourage you to vote no. We're in the process of a legal battle to try to get the title back to the neighborhood, and we plan to convert it to a park. We have $10,000 of confirmed money to do that process and have had a contractor come out and look at it to do the work. So we have alternative plans for the property. Please vote no. Read that packet. You cannot in good conscience allow this to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toole, for your testimony. Jim Fortune is next in favor of the item, followed by David White, also in favor.
I'm Jim Fortune. I'm the president of the Villa de Paz Homeowners Association, an active member of the Phoenix Neighborhood Patrol and the Neighborhood Services Blight Buster program, and a volunteer at our local city park. These things give me a unique perspective on this property. I have been on the management and the maintenance of the property. I'm aware of the crime and vandalism that the property has and is attracting. Since we locked it out July 1st last year, I've had to repair 5 holes in the fence, and twice one of the gates has had the chain cut and their lock put on it. I found drug paraphernalia in the enclosure. Right now, the property is good only for growing weeds and selling drugs. Everyone agrees something needs to be done with the property. No one has come up with any plan for recreation. Houses or a park are the only options. The recreation-only restriction needs to be removed. We need to go to the next step. The next thing is houses or parks. Every morning at 5 a.m., I go to the Dust Devil Park to check for graffiti. When I get there, it looks more like a city dump than a city park. I help with the cleanup and the maintenance of the park. The vandalism of the park is unbelievable. They hack up trees, they destroy and steal anything they can. We recently had an armed robbery at the park with shots fired. 2 years ago, we had a gang-related murder. This is 1 mile from where people want to build another park. I don't want that same crime happening in the center of our community. The police stress to prevent crime. 12 houses will prevent crime. A park will invite it. To me, that's what this vote means. If only the people could see this through my eyes, there would be no question about what to do with the property. There would be houses there now. In March of last year, I was invited into these chambers, and I was presented with the Blight Buster Partnership Award. Now I'm back asking my partners in the city to help me make my community a safer place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fortune, for testifying today and your strong leadership on behalf of neighborhoods. David White is next, and followed by Donna White.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is David White. I live at 11410 West Sage Court in Avondale. And timeout public service announcement. Mr. Hazelwood has a card that is for this item. I believe it was read as 96.
Bad writing.
I know this issue has consumed a disproportionate amount of your time. I thank you for your diligence. I regret my current employment prevented me from sitting down face-to-face and answering questions. I'll be happy to do so after these comments. The original Rec Association boards tried for 16 years to make the association sustainable, and they failed. Sherry Fagan, Claude Maddox, and their friends tried for 3 years, and they failed. My wife and I, and an array of people over the years, have tried for 15 years everything we could think of. We have failed. United has put on a full-court press for over a year to find any sustainable option. What has emerged as the only sustainable option is not the one that those of us involved with the Rec Association would prefer. It is a bitter pill, but after much consideration, I must reluctantly agree with HOA President Jim Fortune. The highest and best use of this parcel is 12 new homes that will benefit the city, 12 new families that will benefit the community. I firmly believe any of the other options that have been discussed will simply result in a replay of this aggravation in the near future. I implore this council to I implore this council to settle this divisive issue, correct a 40-year-old mistake, allow the original developer's Plan B to be implemented by removing the restriction on this property, and let the community and the city move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Donna White, did you provide testimony on this item? And then the last speaker will be James Hazelwood. Please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Stanton, City Council members. My name is Donna White. I volunteer as president of Villa de Paz Recreation Association, which manages the property. I am here to ask you to please vote to modify the stipulation and allow Tract A to be subdivided for houses. This is a zoning land use issue. The master plan in this community has seen many changes, including exchanging 17.1 acres of housing for beautiful Dust Devil Park. The rec center that had been operated on Tract A has been in debt since at least 1996. It was rescued first by former District 5 Councilman Claude Maddox and his wife Sherry Fagan, then by her father, then by 5 new families who joined the board, and then it was rescued by the loan of an equity line by my husband and I, which allowed the rec center to do needed repairs and continue running. The board hoped to get the membership in the black and pay off the debt. But when talk began of a regional park nearby, we suspected that a nice regional city park would mean the end of Villa de Paz Rec Center, but that it would be much better for the community to have a large city-run park over a small, exclusive, private club. When the recession came, we hoped to last at least until Dust Devil Park was completed. The restriction that Tract A be set aside for recreational use, managed by a homeowners association, has not been enforced since 1979, exchanging 1.7 acres of private club for 15 acres of publicly maintained park is a massive win for the community. There is a group that is concerned that allowing houses to be built on Tract A will weaken the case for protecting the golf course. They have resorted to ad hominem attacks against me and others because they have no real case. We have delayed this hearing for a year and a half to give them time to find a way to once again rescue the rec center, but they have come up with no sustainable plans. Villa de Paz community leaders, Alan Galgert, Jean Derry, Dave Dyer, also support this. Please give us a sustainable solution. Please enforce either both parts of the restriction, recreational use and requiring units 1 to 4 to pay HOA assessments to support it, or allow this property to be sold to pay off the debt, allow this community to heal. Please vote in favor of item 95.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hazelwood, up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. My writing was bad. I'm James Hazelwood. I'm an attorney that's been doing some work for Villa de Paz Homeowners Association, an Arizona nonprofit corporation that owns the parcel at issue. This case is about one thing: 12 new homes on an abandoned recreation site currently fenced in versus rendering the abandoned recreation site undevelopable and guaranteeing it will be a magnet for crime. In this long-running, often continued land use matter, the loud noise of opposition has never been far. Allegations about the original developer's intent, the operation of the voluntary rec association that operated the site, nefarious suggestions about creditors of the Villa de Paz Homeowners Association, and a non-existent connection between this parcel and the potential development of the Villa de Paz golf course have been persistent. Here are the facts. All attempts to form a facilities district have failed. The adjacent owners will not agree to an additional tax. No one has offered to purchase the property from the HOA to, quote, save it from the curse of development. The HOA can't maintain it. They don't have the money. The city is not the arbiter of real property or corporate issues the opposition has used to attempt to slander the property and the process. And the original developer set this up to fail. They didn't form a mandatory association with mandatory assessments to take care of the property. So the association requests that the council listen carefully to the two options: 12 new homes versus a fenced, abandoned parcel that will be a magnet for crime. Don't be seduced by legal concepts and arguments that belong, if anywhere, in Maricopa County Superior Court. Not for you to decide. Limit this to land use issues only, because a vote against the stipulation change will not bring back an idyllic neighborhood recreation center with children splashing in the pool with a voluntary pool association that was really a concept in the 50s and 60s. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have no other cards on this item. Is anyone else here that wish to speak on item number 95? With that, I'm going to close this public hearing, going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. I'll now turn it over to the Vice Mayor for any motion, see if there's a second, then any comments he may have. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I want to offer some comments, then I'll make the motion. This is an incredibly difficult case. This has to do with open land, which is something that I'm incredibly supportive of. It has to do with protecting our neighborhoods, which I'm incredibly supportive of. And I believe that, frankly, I believe that both sides want to protect this neighborhood. May have different ideas of how to do that, but both sides want to protect this neighborhood. It's a very difficult case because no matter what is decided here, it may not be the most popular. It's not going to be the most popular case, and it's not about making a decision based on popularity. It's about making a decision based on leadership and what we have currently. When there are clearly some issues around this case. There are civil issues around this case and issues that, frankly, shouldn't be decided by the Phoenix City Council, belong in civil court. when I was first provided with a packet of some of the accusations or allegations, whatever you'd like to call them, on, about these civil issues. I think every one of the members of the council were provided those. I did what I would hope that any one of my colleagues would do, and I turned it over to the Phoenix Police Department. The Phoenix PD confirmed that, these are civil issues and they belong in civil court. That said, this is still an incredibly important case. I reached out several times to and I'll call it both sides here of this case, and I offered mediation, understanding that this is a civil issue. This is still something very important, obviously, to all of us. I want to thank Wendy Sorensen from Bertram Crackula, who has contributed nearly 100 hours of mediation and did it pro bono. And thank you so much, Wendy, for doing that. That said, and again, I do want to mention, because these are civil issues, I did not attend the mediation. No one from the council office attended the mediation, in the spirit of the fact that, again, it is civil and outside of the city council's purview. Despite many continuances and the mediation to allow for agreement between both sides, which I gotta say, I think today it's more like several sides. The way you look at it, I don't think that you clearly have two sides. And the community meetings we've held to find resolution. Ellen, I want to thank you for all of your effort as well in this, and always being available to answer these questions right there in Vita Paz and here at City Hall when we had several meetings. The community has not come any closer to an agreement on this blighted rec center a year and a half later. A sustainable solution for the rec center to include a potential CPMD, which has been part of the conversation. From what we can tell, and having all of these conversations, it hasn't moved forward. No signatures have been collected to implement a CPMD after months of working on this exhaustively. And again, obviously, we're still at an impasse. I could ask for another continuance to allow for more compromise to resolve this in civil court, but again, I see no evidence of movement a year and a half later. I sincerely want to thank several people for truly putting forth an earnest effort. I especially want to thank Jeff O'Toole, who we heard tonight, Steve Feldman, members of Vita Paz United, and a number of the HOA members who attended the mediation, some of which are here, to find a creative solution. There was a moment there where I truly thought that there would be this compromise of a 50-50, maybe develop half the land and the other half would be left for some open space. And I was disappointed to hear that also fell through with the several sides, I would call it. I was disappointed to again hear that the conversations have broke down, but I don't think I'm alone in that. I think we all want what's best for this community. We can't decide, speaking of these civil issues, we can't decide if the full debt is owed. Council can't decide if the debt should have been racked up in the first place either. The entire community pays the price in form of a fenced-off, significantly blighted parcel of land for lack of movement, and it's not fair to the entire community. I do believe that there are so many members of this community that feel like they are caught in the middle, and while this continues, these conversations continue again for a year and a half. There are so many people that are concerned about their community because again, it is this blighted area. It is within our power, within our jurisdiction, is this stipulation. This small parcel, this rec center, has been fenced off since 2014 as we approach 2016. It is not safe It is a significant blight. It has struggled to have enough interest from the neighborhood to self-sustain itself off and on for decades, and currently it is decreasing in property value. There may be civil issues involved, but they are outside of the parameters of this vote. I obviously do support open space. This community was absolutely united, and it was an honor to work alongside every member of this community as we found a way to keep the Via de Paz golf course. We need a sustainable solution for this property. We have a decision to make here, and I support redevelopment of this parcel due to the following reasons. The existing private recreation use was not utilized by a larger neighborhood and fell into a state of disrepair due to the increasing operating costs and a lack of neighborhood membership to support it. The parcel is now a source of blight in the neighborhood. And this parcel is small and can only accommodate a few residential lots. As stipulated, a maximum of 12 lots could be created, and stipulations limit development to 1 story, 24 feet. This limits any development to what is the same as surrounding residential development, and further limits the building height because all new development is only 1 story compared to a mix of 1 and 2 stories in the remainder of the neighborhood. I believe removing the stipulation is the most effective way to remove blight and move this stagnant process forward. And coming to some resolution for the neighborhood and remove the blight that is unfair for the neighbors surrounding this property who are caught in the middle. My motion is to approve the request to modify stipulation number 1 and approve per the planning hearing officer's decision, and stipulations 1 through 3, and the addition of stipulation 4 that reads as follows: a maximum of 12 lots shall be permitted on the 2.37 acres.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a second. Do we have any comments by members of this city council? Councilman Nowakowski, please.
Yeah, can you explain the 4-3-2 vote on, I think it was August 12th? What was 4 and what was 3 and what was 2?
That's the Village Planning Committee vote on this item. Mr. Stevenson?
Correct. Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, the Maryvale Village Planning Committee, there were 4 votes in favor, 3 votes in opposition, and 2 abstained because of a conflict of interest.
Okay. Then the other question I had was reading this document. I just started reading it right now while the speaker kind of highlighted it. And it talks about some deed restrictions. Are we in any kind of legal, can we get sued over this for not upholding these deed restrictions, or?
Mr. Homer, you had a chance, legal department had a chance to review, and the question really is, are we okay to proceed here today?
Mayor and council, yes, we have had a chance to review it. There is a dispute among the various contending parties regarding the CC&Rs. Generally speaking, we don't jump into that dispute and we don't arbitrate it. So our view of the world is that there is no legal reason why you can't proceed with the rezoning request at this time. The issues of the CCRs and their applicability will have to be sorted out. The mediator and others have said perhaps it's a civil matter for a civil court, but the parties have had a lot of time to pursue that option but haven't done it to date. So there's no legal reason why we can't pursue, or why the council can't make a decision on the vice mayor's motion at this time.
Councilman Nowakowski?
And the other thing is, with this whole Prop 207, would we be affected in any way with the Prop 207?
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, we've also looked at that issue briefly. We don't believe that there's a 207 issue here, so we don't think that there will be a problem there with that respect to that, too. It's a rezoning issue.
When you say you don't believe, I mean, have you really looked into it, or I don't want to be open to a lawsuit in the near future, right?
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, yes, we have looked at it, and there's always a difference of opinion on here, but on this one, we look pretty comfortable that it's not a 207 issue.
And then this agreement is basically back in, as I just circled here, May 7th of 1979, and I guess it's a 20-year restriction or limitation of any type of changes. So we're talking about probably 2019 that deed restriction would be lifted, right?
If you had a chance to look at the deed restriction issues, I know it's more of a issue between the individual property owners in the area, but I don't know if our law department's had a chance to look at that issue.
Your Honor, I don't know that we, I'm sorry, Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, too used to speak in the courtroom.
Demoted.
Your Honor, and Your Honor. My understanding is that the restriction expired in 1999. It was a 20-year restriction that was imposed, and I believe it went from 79 to 99, and so then in 2000 there was a transfer made. And so I don't believe that the restriction referred to continues on past the year 1999.
I'm guessing no matter what we do here tonight, there may be civil litigation involved in this matter that we likely will not be a party to.
Mayor and Council, that's our belief, yes. We don't believe that the City of Phoenix has a responsibility for the dispute that's been existing for a long period of time over this.
Councilor Nowakowski, additional questions?
And then this mediator, was it actually a mediator that the city recommended, or was it an independent mediator that the homeowners association actually recommended, or how did this?
Mayor, members of the council, perhaps the vice mayor could explain that in more detail. My understanding is that the vice mayor asked the mediator to participate, and the mediator was acceptable to all parties. And so my belief is the mediator was neutral and did her best under the circumstances, given the contentions of the parties, to make a recommendation for compromise that, as the vice mayor alluded to, we thought would be accepted, but in point of fact has fallen apart and has resulted in many months of acrimonious dispute regarding the matter without any addressing of the blighted area.
Vice Mayor, if you wanted to comment on the mediation process in this matter.
Yes. Again, I want to thank Ms. Sorensen for this. The mediation was not necessarily something that I felt that the city had to do, that we had to do as a council office. I care very much about both parties here. I care very much about this neighborhood, about this community, and in hopes to get the community to a place where we felt that it was a win all the way around, it was worth seeking mediation. And so we had, like I said, nearly 100 hours, or I'll tell you far more than 80 hours of work done here pro bono, thanks to Ms. Sorensen. And I think that, and I got to tell you that, you know, that I think both sides truly appreciated that. So, and again, because again, these are civil issues, many of them, many things that were brought up in this mediation, according to the packet, for civil issues, it was appropriate that I felt that I would not be there, or that a member of my council office would not be there as well.
To be clear, this, I think it was a mediator asked by the vice mayor. It was not formally done on behalf of the entire city of Phoenix. It was the vice mayor's attempt to resolve the dispute. Councilman Nowakowski, did you have questions?
I just wanted to clarify that, so this document isn't created by us, or the mediator wasn't actually provided by the city of Phoenix. It was actually a neutral.
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, that's correct.
All right, and then lastly is that, you know, homeowners associations, we have a lot in the Levine area, and I know that Councilmember Gallegos and myself have been through the same type of battles within the homeowner associations. And this happened with myself several years ago with Bogavia Golf Course and their clubhouse. And I basically just stepped out and let the homeowners and the neighbors work it out. They actually worked it out legally, and they got it up and running, and it's a great facility. I'll be voting no because there's too many question marks. I'm just afraid that later on in the future that we might end up being dragged into a lawsuit, and I believe that the city of Phoenix shouldn't be involved with homeowners association disputes like this. If it's prior to a developer coming in and there were stipulations in there, seeing that there's a 20-year stipulation in there, I'm not really sure if it was up in 2007 or if it was basically started in 1979. So there's a lot of questions that I have, and I just don't feel comfortable voting yes on this.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions by members of the City Council? With that, roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
No.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the motion passes on an 8-to-1 vote. I think the next item on the agenda is item number 97, if that's correct. Can we get a motion on item number 97, a final plat? Councilman DeCiccio has a potential conflict on the item and will not be participating. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 97.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, Councilman DeCiccio has a potential conflict. Any comments by members of this council? Any cards on that item? For the maker of the motion, was your intent that it would be a motion in favor as corrected? Vice Mayor?
I'm sorry.
The item 97, I should have indicated, was intended to be as corrected. Is that what your intent in
As
the motion?
corrected, yes.
As corrected. Okay, we have motion. We have a second. Roll call.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-0 vote. Next item on the agenda, I believe, is item number 104. Do we have a short staff report from our planning director on item number 104?
Mayor, can we look at the cards first? I don't know how many citizens are still here on that, on 104. Who's in favor and who's against?
Okay, right, as of this time, I have eight cards, and they appear to be all in favor.
Is there anyone opposed to 104, the abandonment? Can I see a show of hands of the people that are still here? Mayor, may I ask these questions, and we might be able to get it done?
I have to hold a public hearing for legal reasons.
Okay.
And then, but I think I think the councilman is trying to hint at where he may be going, and therefore, so as long as it's legal, I'm okay with that. Is the councilman able to make comments and maybe ask that question in public before we begin the public hearing?
We probably ought to start the hearing, Mayor.
Well, go ahead.
Can he ask the question in the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, so on item number 104, I'm going to now open the public hearing. Mr. Stevenson, you've been passed over. The public hearing is now open. I have 8 cards in favor. Councilman, did you want to ask the question now?
Well, I do. The ones that are in favor, if I could just see a show of hands of the case. Okay, so I'm ready to make a motion on this. Unless you want to testify, it's up to you. The motion would be favorable toward your position on this. And let me just put a motion on the table if I could. I'm going to modify.
Cannot. We are still in the public hearing, so that's why, yeah. So
You are right.
So you're hinting as where you might be going. And the councilman is hinting that he might be in favor of this item. So
Right.
with that in mind, you don't have to speak, but I want to make sure you have the opportunity to speak. Jeff Porter, did you wish to speak on this item?
Councilman DeCiccio wanted to make a motion after the hearing. I can waive that.
Okay, so you're in favor?
Yes.
You reserve the right if he goes in the wrong direction, then. To come, all right, good. Jill Yancey, you're in favor. Do you want to speak, or you're okay knowing the hinting at where Councilman DeCiccio is going?
Both the Yanceys had to leave and a few.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yeah, you have a lot of people reserving time for you. John Beaver in favor. Nancy Turley Rink in favor, reserving time. Natalie Rink, reserving time to you. Zach Sheridan, that's also reserving time to you. Jeff Porter, yourself. Bob Porter in favor. Did you wish to testimony? You're okay?
I cede my time to my son, Jeff.
That's your brother or your son?
My son.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Diane Barker, are you you're going to speak on this one?
Yes, I am.
All right, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, no, I just found this information, and from what I was together from city manager's office, that my namesake, and there's no relation to this, Mrs. Barker apparently is holding up this movement to abandon the property. But from what I saw is that there was a decision with no basis from the zoning department on this, and I can understand why they would spend the time and then not state a basis for a denial. From everything that I read, I would be in favor. It sounds like there have been allegations of burglaries and misuse and littering and everything in this alley. And from what I read, that the people that were holding this up didn't seem to have ever used that property for vehicle storage.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to testify on item number 104? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Councilman DeCiccio?
Thank you, Mayor, and I know that the neighborhood's been working really hard to try to reach a settlement. There's just one property owner that was having issues with this. And I know that the neighborhood has agreed to pay the $4,000, but I'm going to add some more protections for you on this, if you don't mind. And I don't think you would, but I just don't like to make sure, what I want to make sure is that it's just not a giveaway of cash, because that's something that I have a real issue with. So I'm going to make the motion, and then I'm going to add an extra layer of protection in there for those that are going to be paying for this. The motion is going to be to overturn the abandonment hearing officer's denial decision and approve the alley right-of-way abandonment request per the stipulations in the final abandonment staff report. The one additional stipulation will be the abandonment applicant will offer to pay the property owner of 318 West Flynn Lane for the purchase and installation of a new RV gate from their 4th Avenue frontage. The cost shall not exceed $4,000. I'm good with that, but I also want to add language in there that says that it will be up to the applicant to get 3 bids, and of those 3 bids, that will be the decision that the applicant and the neighbor will have to come to a decision on which one it is. Second, this will not be a giveaway. It has to be exactly for what it is stipulated for. They cannot give it away. Those are the 2 things I'd like to add on to that, too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I assume that's a proper motion, Mr. Planning Director, Alan Stevenson?
Mayor, members of council, with Councilman DeCiccio's permission, I'd like to add a qualifier on there that the Planning and Development Department make the final decision on that. With the way you currently have it read, it's the neighbor who doesn't want it and the other applicant, and if they don't come to agree, there has to be someone to make that decision and say it's okay to move forward.
That's a good call. Thank you for doing that, Alan. That would be great.
Okay, with that, so other than that, it's a proper amended motion?
Yes, Mayor, it is.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second to Councilman DeCiccio's motion? All right, I will second that motion. We already seconded it? Okay. Any additional comments from members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates. Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Councilman Gates, are you still there? Okay, so I guess the motion passed at 8-0 then. All right. Vice Mayor, I know had to go to a meeting in the community. Where are we on the, is it next item is item number, just a moment. 122 through 124, I guess are related items, 91st Avenue and Campbell alignment. Do we have cards on those items? There are no cards on those items. Do we have to do separate staff reports and separate public hearings on all 3? We do.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson, can I get a staff report on item number 122? And then, Councilman Waring, are you still there?
I am.
All right. Do you on your phone? Can you mute the phone?
Can I do what?
Can you mute the phone, and then obviously I'll try to give you. If I call on you, there'll be obviously a little bit of time to undelay it, if you will, if you unmute. But can you mute? All right, we are able to hear, I think, background noise on your phone.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Peace and quiet. All right.
Mayor, members of council, with the indulgence of the city attorney, I can present all 3 of them at once, and then separate motions can ensue, because they're all interrelated, and if I explain all of them once, it'll be easier to move forward.
We're all looking at Mr. Holm.
Yes, that would work.
Mr. Stevenson.
So, Mayor, members of council, item 122 is a general plan amendment for 91st Avenue in Campbell. This is a request to change the existing general plan designation from Commerce Park Industrial for 50.86 acres to residential 3.5 to 5. This aerial shows you the area right in here. It abuts this residential, so it fits in much better contextually, and then the Commerce Park will be here to the south. That's the other part of this request. So here's the general plan designation that just shows the change in colors as they're proposed. It then allows for item 123, which is the zoning case, that would change the zoning for this parcel to allow for residential development. Here's the proposed site plan for this particular one. As part of this residential request, they are proposing to do single-family residential in this area here. The next request, which is item 120, and here's our elevations for it. Item 124 is a modification of the existing PUD boundaries that used to include this parcel that was the subject of the zoning case we just went through. So it modifies it just to include this larger acreage here in red and removes that area. It doesn't make any other changes to it. It just includes, takes out that area because it's now part of a single-family development that is going to be sold and developed by others. All of these requests were approved unanimously by the Maryville Village Planning Committee. The Planning Commission, I don't believe there's any opposition to any of them.
Real quick, is the reason why it wasn't on this is because of the requirement that we hold a public hearing?
Mayor, members of council, yes, under state statute, general plan amendments
okay.
require a public hearing, and then you can't approve the zoning until you do the general plan amendment.
All right, and Mr. Holm, I have to hold 3 separate public hearings?
Yes, but they can be brief, Your Honor, or Mayor, if there's no opposition.
All right, so on item number 122, we'll take that one first. I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any cards on item? Anyone here to provide testimony on item number 122? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion on item number 122?
Motion to approve item 122.
Vice Mayor, it's in your district, so the Vice Mayor has
Second.
made a motion to approve. We have a second.
Mayor, is that per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance?
Vice Mayor, was your motion to approve? Okay.
Second.
With seconds okay with that? We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego. Gates. Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 7-0 vote. Item number 123 is next. We heard the staff report. I'll now open the public hearing. Are any other cards on item 123? Is there anybody here in the audience wishing to speak on item number 123? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion to approve per Planning Commission's approval and adopt the related ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve with the per the Planning Commission recommendation. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mayor.
All right.
Mayor, and adopt the
Adopt it,
related
raise it up.
ordinance.
Did you want to adopt the related ordinance, Vice Mayor?
I do.
Okay, and the second, okay. We have a proper motion, we have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego. Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item number 124. We had a staff report. We're now going to hold the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Are there any cards on 124? Any members of the public here to provide testimony on 124? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed.
I make the motion to approve per the Planning Commission recommendations and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes unanimously. And so that is the completion of business before the City Council. As was stated earlier, we had 15 minutes of citizens' request at the beginning of the meeting. We will now have a minimum of 15 minutes of additional citizens' request. Beyond that, my only concern is, because I know there's numerous cards here, is the ability to keep a quorum. So if we lose a quorum, that would be the only situation where we cannot continue. Under the old rules, we could continue to hear citizen comments, but under the new rules, under the advice of the Attorney General's office, we cannot. First person to speak, so we can keep a track of the 15 minutes at least, so we know we've met our legal requirement. So please do that. Reverend Aaron Tomeo, is that the right? Reverend Aaron Tomeo? Maybe had to leave earlier. Next person to speak on citizen comment, Josephine Rios.
Mayor, do we have a quorum? Do we have somebody on the phone?
Is anyone still left on the phone?
I'm on the phone. Jim Waring.
Thank you, Councilman Waring. I believe we do as a result, but it's close.
I plan to stay on the phone as long as you need me, so.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Josephine Rios had to leave, I guess, because of the length of the meeting. Angela Vera. Brian Winefsky. Followed by Miss Jeremio, if you're here. And if you are here, please come close to the microphone. Mr. Winefsky, up to 3 minutes. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Mayor Stanton, members of the council, my name is Brian Winefsky, and I'm the Director of School Leadership for the Pendergast School District, which is located in the cities of Phoenix, Glendale, and Avondale. In Pendergast, we recognize that it takes a village to raise a child. We welcome our community into our schools and are continually seeking partnerships and new resources to ensure student success. I'm here today to personally invite you to join us to our next community collaboration breakfast to be held on Tuesday, December 1st at 7:30 a.m. At this month's breakfast, we will visit with our amazing kindergarten students from our district's Spanish dual language programs. Our students are excited to have you attend as they share their learning and wish you a Merry Christmas and Feliz Navidad. This fabulous free breakfast will be held at Sunset Ridge Elementary School, located at 8490 West Missouri in Glendale. Also presenting will be Mr. David Martinez from St. Mary's Food Bank. Although the breakfast is free, we encourage you to support St. Mary's by bringing non-perishable food items that will benefit the community this holiday season. Please join us and even bring a friend. The breakfast will begin at 7:30 and the program will start at 7:45. The breakfast lasts about an hour. If possible, please RSVP to our district office at 623-772-2200. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for your continued support of the community you serve and the children of the Pendergast School District.
Thank you for coming down and waiting through that long meeting. Maybe we get that information to all of the council members, especially the ones that are online, so they know that they are all invited to Pendergast, one of our best school districts. Ms. Jeremio, are you here to provide testimony? Followed by Joanne Scott Woods, up to 3 minutes. And please, Joanne, if you're here, please come forward.
Buenas tardes. Necesito translate it, por favor.
Thank you.
Good evening, I need interpreter.
Yo soy Karina Jaramillo, soy coordinadora de defensa en gente transgénero. Soy de la organización Arcoiris y ACQUIP. Estoy aquí por el motivo de darles a conocer que estamos exigiendo, pidiendo un punto que se hizo importante hace tiempo, se dio a conocer que es en cuestión de las ID. Muchos de nuestras gente hemos sido...
I am here in favor of the transgenders, and I am here requesting the support for the IDs.
Necesitamos parar esto porque uno de nuestros compañeros, que se llama Ricky González, fue detenido por no tener una identificación. Lo hemos estado haciendo público varias veces, pero no se nos ha hecho caso. Solamente se dice que se va a hacer y no se ha hecho.
We have a person that his name is Ricky González, and he has been detained because he doesn't have identification. And we need to resolve this issue. And this has been brought up many times, and nothing has happened.
Mayor, may I add one thing? Es importante que habla un poquito más despacio porque ella no diga todo que usted dice, ¿ok?
Okay.
¿Entiende?
Sí,
bueno.
Está bien.
Okay. Vidi, are you going to help out?
Yeah, I'm going to help translate.
Okay.
Would you prefer to have Vidi translate and not our? Okay, no problem.
Que si prefieren que interprete la persona.
¿Puedo continuar? Ok, sería importante y relevante hacerles saber que no solamente es solamente nosotros los transgénero y la gente LGBT siempre se nos deja el último, sino es para toda la comunidad que no tiene identificación. Necesitamos ver si se puede hacer una identificación con género, que también se nos dijo que sí. No lo han llevado a la mesa, el motivo no lo sé.
This is not just an issue for LGBTQ community, although we're always a community that is left behind. As I was sharing the story, reiterate the story of Ricky Gonzalez, which is part of the organization, who was arrested when he tried to open a bank account because he didn't have a valid identification and was in detention for over a year because of that. This issue has been brought up several times, and yet there has been no action to move this forward.
Lo único que queremos saber y entender es si van a tomar acción esta vez. Queremos estar dispuestos y abiertos a ver si nos pueden hacer caso esta vez. Necesitamos una respuesta, necesitamos acción de ustedes, pero una acción inmediata, y queremos ver si es posible que antes de diciembre nos puedan dar una respuesta.
Right now, we're asking for action. We're asking for immediate action by December. We brought this up forward several times and have not received an answer.
Sería todo. Muchas gracias.
That'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for providing that important testimony. Next speaker will be Joanne Scott Woods, followed by Norma Jimenez.
Okay. I invite you, Mayor, and all the council members to speak at a press conference to be held Wednesday, December 2nd at 5:30 at the Cesar Chavez Plaza on the first anniversary on the death of Rumain Brisbane. Rumain was a 34-year-old unarmed man who was killed by a Phoenix police officer, Mark Ryan. The officer ordered him to lay on the apartment floor in front of his daughter and his mother. And when he did so, Rumain extended his hands upward. Ryan then shot him twice in the back. The first shot, from a distance around 4 feet, severed his spine, paralyzing him. The second shot in the back caused him to bleed out. There were no signs of a struggle on his body. These are just two facts from the investigation that were kept from the public and the family. Rumain's family is now suing Ryan and the police department for $65 million. Justice for Rumain this year has come from the police in the development of a 40-hour training module for all law enforcement, which was presented on April 20th. And another step was the body cam study presented on October 14th. The original was in 2011. The second step in promising another 150 body cams. So there will now be 300 out of 2,900 officers outfitted with body-worn video cameras. Additional steps towards justice have been taken by activists and community leaders from the People Demanding Action Community Coalition. On August 18th, the members presented your chiefs of staffs with solutions to build trust between community and the police. We have had no response. The second meeting, a second step, is slated for November 20th with Assistant Police Chief Michael Kurtenbach and Marshall Franklin, Director of Police Community Relations for the Phoenix Police Department. The coalition is asking for steps and timelines for funding these solutions, such as body cams for all officers, dash cams on all vehicles, and an early intervention system for at-risk officers for violent behavior. If general funds are not available, emergency funds will be requested to address our police department's crisis of being nationally the highest in per capita killings of citizens by the police over the last 5 years. Please attend our press conference and speak on what in the coming year does justice look like to you for Rumain Brisbane, his daughters, our community, and our police. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Woods. Ms. Jimenez is next, followed by Adriana Garcia.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the Council. I will be speaking on behalf of Norma Jimenez. My name is Jennifer Gonzalez. I will be reading a letter of support from the Justice Center and widening the welcome in favor of the One Phoenix ID. Mayor Stanton, Justice Center is a day resource center specifically designed to help homeless individuals over the age of 55 find appropriate housing, employment, and other much-needed services. At Widening the Welcome, we call for all churches to extend a welcome to those with physical, mental, and developmental disabilities. We are coming together to request that you exercise your authority as Mayor of Phoenix and bring the One Phoenix Municipal Identification Proposal to a vote. As a united front, we can bring this card to our communities in immediate need. For years, you have expressed your commitment to end homelessness and foster inclusivity in our city. The One Phoenix Municipal Identification is one more measure that moves us forward to end homelessness by providing the basic need of identification to indigent community members. The lack of identification denies homeless community members access to basic needs such as the library, medical help, and housing. The need becomes greater when they also suffer from a physical, mental, or developmental disability. Being able to provide identification can aid in many circumstances, primarily when there is interaction with the police department or when they seek help. It is time to provide a card that streamlines city services, allows our most vulnerable a way to identify themselves, and unites our Phoenix community. We respectfully ask that you add the One Phoenix Municipal Identification Proposal to the City Council agenda. Bring it to a vote immediately and provide this much-needed resource for our community. Thank you from Reverend Rock R. Fremont and Robert Koth.
Thank you so very much. So the next speaker is Ms. Garcia, followed by Gilbert Romero.
Adriana's not here, but can I read the statement?
You may.
So she was reading the statement from community members that were also, they had to leave. And so I'll read that statement. It's from Angeles Vera. It says, "Thank you, Mayor and members of council. My name is Angela Vera. I am the leader of the Block Watch Save the Children, which is located in District 5. I would like to talk about the municipal ID. Our community is living under a time of insecurity and abuse due to the crime. People in my community do not feel comfortable reporting crime, reporting robbery, and they're reporting intimidation or vandalism just for the simple fact of not having an ID. It is hard for our kids not to be able to play, not to be able to have us participate in the community because people are too afraid to report crime. Also, it is hard for our parents like myself to not be allowed to participate in my kids' school, to volunteer, just for the simple act of not having an ID. We ask that you pass this as soon as possible, that you bring this up to the agenda, bring it up to a vote. It is not possible that when we are reporting crime, instead of helping us, our community continues to be criminalized. We need you to take action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next speaker will be Gilbert Romero, followed by Melina Arroyano.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, thank you for listening to all of us today about the One Phoenix ID. I am also here to advocate for the One Phoenix ID in the city of Phoenix. As a community organizer for Lucha, Living United for Change in Arizona, I see every day the need for this ID. Our 700 members, many of whom are undocumented, need this ID in order to feel safe in their communities and in order to self-identify. This ID would help many folks in our community. As a community organizer and as a member of the LGBT community, I cannot stress enough the importance that LGBT folks need the right and they need the necessity to self-identify how they choose. I work every day knocking on doors, talking to folks, working with students in the community, and they tell me there's an urgent need for them to self-identify, whether they're undocumented, whether they're LGBT, even the homeless folks they see around town. I'm also the organizer of the recent action we had last week on Tuesday for the One Phoenix ID. And we had a strong community, about 500 folks outside the council chambers, and our community is strong. Our community is here. Our community wants this One Phoenix ID, and we're not going to stop until we have it, until we're able to see this on the agenda. So I ask of all of you to please take action, use your authority, use your influence, and use your power to put this ID on the agenda because our community can no longer wait. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Melina Arellano, followed by Maria Montesero.
Hi.
Monterosa, excuse me.
Oh, my bad.
Please.
Sorry. Hi, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Melina, and I'm a student at Metro Tech High School. I'm here in support of the municipal ID because my family suffered the results of not having an ID. In 2012, my dad was arrested when he was a passenger during a traffic stop. My dad left on Friday, and we didn't know anything about him until Saturday afternoon. Can you imagine how it feels not knowing where your dad is until the next day, not knowing why he doesn't come home to sleep that day? I would start crying when my brother asked me, where's my dad at? Not having the answer for him. So I'm here in support of the municipal ID because I don't want others' families to go with what I went through. I please ask you to add this item to the agenda as soon as possible, immediately. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ms. Monterosa?
Hola, buenas tardes, miembros del concilio, señor alcalde. Mi nombre es María Monterroso y soy una madre de familia que ha estado apoyando en realidad lo que es el ID, number one. Para mí es lamentable y muy triste que vean esto como un juego, o a lo mejor a ustedes no les importe ni les interese, pero a nosotros como personas comunitarias sí, porque muchos padres necesitan de ese ID y es muy importante para todos nosotros.
My name is Maria Monterroso, and I am here to speak on behalf of the One Phoenix ID. It is really frustrating to be here again, sharing our stories, because this is an issue that might not be important to you. However, this is very important for our community.
Y más triste todavía porque este mensaje viene siendo muy especial para el concilio, que viene siendo la señora Laura Pastor, el señor Daniel Valenzuela específicamente, a la señora Kate Gallego. Es muy triste. Yo específicamente me siento utilizada. Siento que nada más cuando necesitan a la comunidad vuelven hacia nosotros, y cuando nosotros necesitamos de ustedes nos ignoran, y eso no debería estar pasando porque es inhumano.
It makes me really sad also to know and here address our council members, Councilmember Laura Pastor, Councilmember Kate Gallego, Councilman Daniel Valenzuela, to know that whenever there is need, to feel like we are being used, because whenever there is need, we reach out to the community. However, when the community needs we're being ignored.
En los últimos días hemos estado tratando de obtener este ID, que para mí como madre es muy importante, ya que necesitamos ese ID sería como algo muy importante para nosotros, porque es un ID legal que nos tendríamos como para identificarnos por el temor a ser víctimas del departamento de policía, que en muchas ocasiones simplemente porque no tienes un ID de aquí extendido acá se nos arresta o X cosa. Entonces yo tengo mis 2 hijos y para mí es muy frustrante pelear por esto y que seamos ignorados todo el tiempo.
As a mother, this is very important to me to have something that identifies me in order for us not to be victims of our police department, because just for the simple fact of not having an ID, we can be arrested.
Yo lo único que quiero en este momento es ver que ustedes demuestren el poder que tienen. Ustedes pueden. Si ustedes llegan a firmar ese bill y se lo pasan a la mesa al señor Stanton, yo tengo fe en él, que él es muy humano y él puede firmar y hacer realidad para nosotros ese ID en Arizona.
I'm asking you to demonstrate your support, to demonstrate and stand up for the community and get this forward into the agenda immediately. I have faith that once Mayor Stanton has it on his hands, he will do the right thing.
Y más claro no puede estar. Nos dejan de último, el señor Valenzuela se va, nos deja plantados. ¿Qué tal? Pero bien que necesitó de nosotros, bien que estuvo siempre pidiendo la ayuda. Todos pidieron la ayuda, todos estuvimos. ¿Y qué tal? Y ahora ni siquiera da la cara. Lo siento mucho, pero es necesario decirle lo que se siente, porque nosotros ya estamos hartos de que nos tengan en que sí, que no, que sí, que no. Nosotros somos también humanos, nosotros también pagamos impuestos. Ustedes piensan, nada más cuando las ferias del gay, todos los eventos públicos van y sonríen y nos dan la mano y cara de qué creen que tenemos nosotros. No, ya basta, pónganse a trabajar, no tiene caso que vayan a los paris y que vayan a pelar el diente. No, señores, trabajen porque nosotros por eso caminamos, por eso sudamos, por eso nos arriesgamos. La vida, especialmente por el señor Valenzuela, que a mí en varias ocasiones me amenazaron de muerte por tocar la puerta y decir, voten por él, simplemente porque era un latino. No es justo, de verdad no es justo. Gracias. Señor Michael Nowakowski, muchas gracias.
Can't express all that anger and frustration that's there, but cannot be clear that the lack of action what that has demonstrated to the community. This is inhumane actions to not move this forward. Our community, whenever it is needed of us, we have come out. Whenever there's an event, you come out, you shake hands, you say you support us, but yet when it is time to act, there is no action. Especially for Councilman Valenzuela, several times when we were door knocking and sweating and walking door to door for him, we were threatened with our lives, threatened to be shot for knocking those doors. Yet we continued knocking because we believed in you. Use your power to get this done. You have the power, you can do this. Stopping and delaying it any longer is inhumane. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dolce Monterosa?
Good afternoon, Mayor, and all the members of Council. And especially I have a message for Mr. Valenzuela about the ID problem. My mom, I'm one of the million children that are scared each morning to go to school because each time when I see a police, I'm afraid. I can't even concentrate on my work because I'm worried about my mom because she doesn't have an ID. I'm worried that each time she goes out in the car, buying groceries or doing stuff for us, she's arrested. That's what I think because she doesn't have the ID. And I think Mr. Valenzuela doesn't care about us. Doesn't care, seriously. That's just rude, unfair. You know what happened when we were walking, knocking doors? My mom knocked the door. My brother was 2.5 years old. She knocked on the door, and this American guy knocked on the door and said, "Get out of here or I'm gonna shoot you with a real gun." And I was 7 years old. Do you think that's good? No, it's not. That's just being rude, because he even said that he had promises for us, and if we needed help, he would help us. That's just rude, really rude. He's lying. Where is that man that I hugged when I was 7 years old and thought he was good? Until right now that I'm 11 years old, he's not. He didn't keep his promises. He just lied to us. Even though parents over here, dying for hunger, freezing and sweating and walking on the hot days with raining? I mean, why? Why is he doing this? We helped him get that spot. He should be glad he has that spot. And don't look us like dirt and kick us on the face. I mean, persons should have IDs. Like that day, I always remember it. And today in the morning, I was in the car, and I'm always sure I have my seatbelt on and all that kind of stuff. And the police right next to us, I always pray before going to school. Pray before leaving home. Because I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I'm scared that my mom doesn't have an ID and arrest her. I won't be scared no more if that dream comes true. I'm really terrified. I'm not kidding. I hope you list this in your agenda and vote yes, because this has to stop right now. And I'm not lying. Thank you.
I thank you, Dolce, very much for coming down and testifying. The next speaker is Berta Rita. Miss Rita, are you here?
How old was she, Mayor? How old are you?
I think she's self-identified as 11, is my,
Oh.
yeah.
That's like amazing.
And then after Miss Rita is Vidi Hernandez.
Buenas tardes para todos. Mi nombre es Berta Rita.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Berta Rita.
Sí, yo vengo a pedirles de favor que por favor nos apoyen para lo del ID municipal, porque como comunidad es muy importante para nosotros tener un ID. Hay muchos problemas con la policía cuando va uno manejando y lo detienen. Desgraciadamente es muy necesario manejar aquí en este país, por más que uno no quiera manejar. Tenemos muchas cosas que hacer, más cuando la escuela no recoge a tus niños en el bus, pues y está retirada, tenemos que llevarlos. Y nos detiene un policía y lo primero que piden es identificación y si no la traes, te arrestan. Por favor, voten a favor del ID. Y muy en especial también venía a hablarle para Daniel Valenzuela. No te olvides de quién te puso ahí, Daniel Valenzuela, en esa silla. Nosotros como comunidad, no te olvides que cuando no tenías dónde hacer tus juntas, yo presté mi casa. Yo te apoyé al 100% y mucha gente caminó por ti. Y no nomás por él, por muchos que están ocupando ese puesto. Muchos de nosotros hemos caminado y hemos pedido el voto para ustedes. Por favor, no nos den la espalda ahora que los necesitamos. Y es todo lo que les quería decir. Muchas gracias.
My name is Berta Rita, and today here I am pleading for your support for the One Phoenix ID, for the municipal ID. We need an ID for everything. It's an everyday necessity. Whenever we interact with the police department, the first question that they ask is whether we have an identification or not. I have a message especially for Councilman Valenzuela, and who is not here today, but our community put you in that seat. When you didn't have support, when you didn't have where to meet, I opened my house up to you. I supported you 100%. And it's not just Councilman Valenzuela, it's a lot of you who are now in power, who when it was needed, we were there knocking doors and talking to people and getting the vote out for you. Don't turn your back on our community now. Get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vidi Hernandez, you're next.
Actually, can I wait until all the stories have been told, just in case I have to translate again?
If you want to go last, you certainly can. That's fine. Mike Mericruz Ramirez, followed by Jessica Rubio, and then Lorraine Moya Halas.
Good afternoon. My name is María Cruz Ramírez. Soy miembro de Puente. Hoy me da tristeza, es la segunda vez que vengo, pero me da tristeza ver esas sillas vacías. Esas sillas vacías significan la importancia que nos dan como comunidad.
My name is Maricruz, and I am a member of Puente. Today I'm here really sad because it's the second time I come, but those empty chairs show me the importance that you give our community.
De igual manera que toda mi comunidad, pido de la manera más atenta que nos pongan atención y que nos den la firma para que pase ese voto para el ID.
Just like everyone else in my community, I am here asking, pleading to take the actions needed to put the municipal ID up for a vote.
Nos hace falta ese ID en el momento que queremos reportar algún crimen, en el momento que nosotros salimos a la calle y también sufrimos de algún crimen, de alguna violación, tanto parte de personas y también parte de la policía.
We need an ID for everyday use, such as reporting crime, whenever we are out and we witness anything, or we ourselves are victims of violation, not only of other people, but even within the own police department.
En el momento de que yo vea un crimen, yo lo puedo reportar con la seguridad de que no me va a pasar nada, de que yo tengo esa identificación, de que yo tengo esa cara, ese rostro de la comunidad para poder estar 100% segura de lo que voy a reportar y voy a decir.
I want to be able to report crime, and when I witness something being happen, to be able to call without fear that I'm going to be the one jeopardized in that situation. I want to have the confidence to be able to call and give those reports and report everything that is happening within the community.
Hay momentos en que no se han reportado los crímenes por miedo a ser detenidos por no tener esa identificación.
Many times I've chosen not to report even when I've witnessed crime because of the fear of not having an ID.
Imagínense el día de mañana. Todos somos inmunes a que nos pase algo. Si yo veo el día de mañana que a alguien le pasa algo, no lo quiero decir, pero a alguien de ustedes, de su familia, de alguien cercano a ustedes, si yo miro ese crimen, no lo voy a reportar. Aunque ustedes sean súper conocidos, no lo voy a hacer por el miedo de no tener ese ID.
No one is immortal and things can happen. And imagine if anyone within a family, within your family, to be hurt at some point, and if I were to witness such thing, I'm too afraid to call. I'm too afraid to report. I wouldn't report. And that's jeopardizing a lot of families.
Imagínense si el día de mañana a mí me pasa algo. Yo quedo en la calle. Voy a quedar como un bulto en la calle porque no tengo esa identidad, porque no voy a tener esa imagen que me representa, ese ID que me hace ser miembro de esta comunidad.
Can't imagine if something happens to me and I am just left in the street. I'm going to have no name, I'm going to have no recognition, and people won't know who I am. Just for the simple fact of not having an ID.
Yo les pido realmente que se pongan a trabajar. Así como nosotros trabajamos para que ustedes ocupen ese puesto ahí, también quiero que ustedes, ya estando en ese puesto ahí, se ocupen del puesto que nos toca a nosotros como comunidad, de estar unidos y de ser una comunidad integrada, no una comunidad desintegrada. Gracias.
Just as much as we worked as a community to get people elected and put people in office, we expect you to do your job and represent the community that is out there, and to help build this and make this a community that is integrated and not continue to allow us to be this integrated community. I want to be part of this community. I want an ID that shows that I am part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Rubio?
Mayor Stanton,
Yes?
this is Daniel Valenzuela, and I know it's public comment, and typically we don't respond unless our name has been mentioned, and my name has been mentioned several times, and if it's appropriate, I'd like to respond now, unless you'd like me to wait.
Okay, first off, I didn't know you were on the line. I apologize.
No, I've been on the line this whole time. I had to leave the meeting, as sometimes we often have to do when we make other commitments in the community. And but I called in from the moment I left the meeting. I've been on the meeting, been a part of the meeting this whole time.
So the answer to that question is, if someone, I think, impugns your integrity, and you want to respond to that, you can. I'm concerned about talking about the underlying issue or your position on the underlying issue, because that is not an agendized item. And so to the extent that people have criticized you individually and lying and that sort of thing, I think it would be appropriate to respond. I just don't want you've got to be careful not to cross the line into getting too much into the details of the underlying policy issue. That's kind of where as chair, I think it's appropriate. So with those guidelines, you may respond.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I do feel like my integrity has been called into question. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's incredibly unfair. I am absolutely committed to this community. I'm a product of this community. My adult children are products of this community. And this is an effort that I have, this concept, and looking into this concept, is something that I have been committed to from day one. In fact, my voting record will show that. Most recently, just a few weeks ago, in the subcommittee, supporting an RFI. Unfortunately, as we know, that failed as 2 council members voted no. I certainly was not one of those council members. I, in fact, made the motion personally and voted for it. I think there's a misunderstanding and some misinformation that is out in the community, and I think that is it's unfair, to say the least. But to attack my integrity based on those false statements, I think simply inappropriate. I'm absolutely, like I said, and Mayor, just give me one more moment. I'm absolutely committed to this, as I mentioned, to the City of Phoenix and certainly District 5, to the people of Phoenix and certainly the people of District 5, and I will stay on the line to listen to the rest of the speakers. My hope is that this appropriately gets back into the process. I understand that it will, and I look forward to seeing this as it goes through the process and as it comes to the full council coming from the subcommittee.
All right, thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Ms. Lorraine Hollis?
No, Jessica Rubio. Yeah, I've been waiting here.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rubio, you are next, followed by Ms. Lorraine Hollis. Please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Jessica Rubio. I'm the program coordinator of the ALAS program, which it stands for Academic and Leadership Accelerator for Service. This program, it's currently preparing 25 students to go to college. And I'm here in support of the municipal ID because I have seen the fear of my own family. My mother was a victim of domestic violence in 2007. I was just 15 years old at the time, but for a long period of time, my dad used to threaten my mother by telling her that if she ever called the police when she had been hurt or beaten, police will ask her for an identification. And since she didn't have one, she was going to get arrested. It was because of this fear that my mom never reported any incident. And it was not until my dad held her a hostage for a few hours against her will that she escaped, and she asked a 9-year-old girl across the street to call the police because she was not able to do it by herself. 2 more people driving by there stopped and helped my mom. My mom didn't want it to be separated from us, and when the police got there, the threat came true. The police officer asked my mother for an ID, and he asked her to calm down. She couldn't speak. She was shocked, and it was not until the other 2 people urged the police officer to give her more time, and they offered to give their testimony, that she was left alone. If it wasn't for those 2 people, I don't know where my mother or I will be. So I urge you, members of council, to put this on the agenda, since I'm sure there are other women like my mother fearing for their life and fearing for their kids and not be able to call the police because of this fear and their lack of identification. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony and your patience. Ms. Hollis?
Yes. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I don't think that I can say it any better than what's been said already. They've stated very clearly why it's a humane thing to do, so I want to talk a little bit about why it's the wise thing to do in the best interest of Phoenix. My name is Dr. Lorraine Moya Salas, and I'm the Executive Director of Unlimited Potential, and we're a nonprofit that works in Phoenix to promote the education of all families. I'm also a professor at Arizona State University. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college, and I was successful in doing so because my mother used to read to me. She used to get books from the library for me. She used to volunteer at my school, and she used to go on field trips with me. And research is very, very clear that if parents are engaged in their children's education, children do better. We need to support Latino parents in supporting their children's education. You can't go on a school campus, many school campuses, if you don't have an ID. You can't be a chaperone on a field trip if you don't have an ID. We must make it easier for parents to be actively engaged in their children's education. We know that Latinos in 2 years will be the majority in Arizona's schools. We invest in these families now, or we pay the price later, with an insufficient tax base that will not fund the City of Phoenix adequately. It's in everybody's best interest to support this issue. In closing, I just want to read a statement from a parent from the center where I work. She says, I have been living in Arizona for 18 years. I pay taxes. I have children in school. I too am taking classes to improve my education. I need an ID so I can feel like I am part of this great community, so that I can support my children's educational success and health. Please take action on this issue immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony tonight. Is there anyone else here wishing to provide testimony as part of the citizen comment portion of today's meeting? No one else? Then the final, Vidi, you're the closer.
My name is Vidi Hernandez, and I've been working with the One Phoenix Coalition for over a year, now near 3 years, talking about this proposal. As you once heard, here again, stories of people that are every day affected by the lack of ID. You can hear the frustration and the pain in their voice, which is a sentiment that is shared by people all across the city. It is frustrating to us as organizations to have to hear these stories every day and not understand how this cannot be an urgent matter for all of you. Because we feel the urgency. Every day we have to hear another story that we have to help another woman crawl out of a bedroom window because she's too afraid to call. When we have to see another parent be denied to go chaperone their kid's field trip. When we have to see another another member in the community be turned away from housing due to the lack of ID. You cannot claim to be an inclusive city and champion for our communities, champion for the Latino community, champion to end homelessness, champion against domestic violence, and champion for all these issues when we can pass a policy that is cost neutral for a measure that will protect all these communities we say to champion. We know that it is in your complete power to place municipal identification policy on the agenda and pass it before the end of the year. The community has done their part in finding the resources to get this done. We've brought forward community partners. We've brought forward the legal research of over years. We've brought forward drafted policy that has been sitting in someone's desk and all of your desks probably for the last 5 months. We've put forward all the resources that we've had and are asking for you to now do your part to get this done. I'd like people here to stand who believe, if you are in this room and believe that people should not live in fear, that homeless individuals should not be denied housing just for a simple act of not having an ID. If you do not believe that that women or men should live in abusive homes because of that fear, that if you believe that parents should be able to volunteer at their child's school and be part of their kid's life, please stand. Mayor and council members who are not here and the council members that are on the phone, you have the complete power to push this forward. You have the complete power to pass policy and get this done before the end of the year that clearly states that this is a policy, that this is an identification that we want to get done for all the communities that are marginalized and victims of not having an ID. We know you have the power and we expect you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is at least according to the cards, I have the final speaker for citizen request here tonight. So there will be no further business before the City Council. Today's meeting is adjourned.